Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy podcast. On this week's episode, we're going to be breaking down the results from the Lille Regional Championships that took place this past weekend. We've, of course, got another regional championships this weekend. Toronto coming up. We'll give our predictions, talk about what we think may or may not change in the meta. This is the last tournament of the current format. We will, of course, have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. And then we'll talk about the brand new set, Paradox Rift. We're going to go through all the cards in this episode, all the interesting cards, at least competitively speaking, and talk about our thoughts, opinions, and give you guys also the cards that we, Azul and I, are most excited to give a try. Welcome to this week's episode. My name is Chip Ritchie, joined here, as always, by my friend and co-host, Azul GG. What's up, buddy? How we doing, Azul?
I'm doing pretty good, Chip. I did my first, I guess, what do people call it? Simulcast live stream the other day. Now it's no longer against Twitch's TOS to stream on Twitch as well as other platforms at the same time. So I was streaming on Twitch and YouTube yesterday. I do plan to also try and stream on TikTok as soon as I can get access to they have like their own studio thing you have to stream through now. They're not giving out stream keys anymore, unfortunately, because it would be nice to stream everything out of OBS, but now you have to use like TikTok Live Studio or something. I don't have access to that yet because I don't have 1,000 followers on TikTok quite yet. I'm pretty close, so just need to keep pumping out some TikToks, get back to like streaming until I can make some of those, and then probably streaming over there as well. But yeah, I figured all that stuff out. That's what I was doing over the weekend. Oh, I was also at TwitchCon for a couple days, Thursday and Friday, which was interesting. I think I'll probably try and go for the full weekend next time. It was fun to hang out in Vegas. Dude, Vegas it's weird. I know you went to Vegas for the first time recently too, right? So
I did, yeah. Vegas was awesome. Yeah, I had a great time. I don't know, it's kind of weird because it's got somewhat like New York vibes in some aspects because it's like a city that never sleeps or whatever, right? But it's just like a huge party environment 24/7 pretty much.
yeah, it like literally is like one big mall. Like the whole thing is just one massive mall. It's actually kind of insane. Like the whole like strip area. Obviously, if you get away from the strip, it's kind of more normal city suburb type areas. But yeah, if you're downtown strip area, it feels like just one massive mall for sure. Lots of lights, and yeah, everyone's up really late.
Yeah, and for me, as you can probably tell, I am not in my usual setup. I'm actually kind of tucked away in the corner of a convention center right now to record this week's episode. I'm on vacation with my family down in Disney, but we still had to make sure we got the episode out to everyone, so we're making it work. I am coming off of 2 straight days of going hard all day at the parks, and I'm waking up first thing in the morning to do it again. I am pretty tired. My feet do not feel great, but we're still getting it out, and we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it happen. So,
are you a ride guy? Like, do you like the big roller coasters and stuff?
Yeah. I'm definitely a big fan of the ride. It's kind of interesting though, because this is the first time. So it's just me and Brooke and then our son Samuel. And this is the first time we've ever brought him. But he's only 14 months old, so he can't do any rides or anything like that. But they've got this system called Rider Swap, where if you want to do a ride, one of you goes through the normal line and waits, and then the other person, whenever that person gets through and finishes the ride by themselves, they come off, and then the other person gets to go through the lightning lane or like the fast pass line, pretty much. So we did that for a couple rides, but really, to be honest, we're kind of just doing more of the things that he's able to do, which has been fun because it's a lot of stuff that we've never done because, we don't go through the playgrounds and they've got this new thing at Epcot that's like a water display feature, which just like a place that kids can walk through and like play with water and learn about water. And he's like walking through there. He's still working on it, but and like running his hands through the water and stuff. It's been a lot of fun to kind of just, we're usually, Brooke and I have come to Disney a ton of times, and usually when we go, it's like go, go, go. We're going constantly trying to get from this ride to this ride, doing this show, we're going all over the place doing stuff, but we've kind of slowed it down, done more of the family type stuff, and it's been fun. We've really enjoyed it, so it's been a blast.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a while since I've been to both of the Disneyland, Disney World. It's been a while since I've been on but I'm not a huge fan of like the really big rides. Like the biggest ride that I went on at the I don't even remember which one it was. I think it was the one in California. Maybe it was the one in Florida. But I went on the Toy Story roller coaster with Slinky or whatever. What's the Slinky's dog's name?
Yeah, Slinky Dog Dash, I think.
Yeah, that
It's
might
at
be
Hollywood
it.
Studios in Florida. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think that might be
that
the
was
one.
tough for you.
I mean, even that one was a little bit, a little bit. I actually at TwitchCon, I went on. I did like a VR thing, that it was like a spaceship type VR thing, and even that was a little bit like I had to like take a deep breath before, but it was actually like a lot more intense than I thought it'd be. Like the chair moved, you had the freaking whole headset on, so you can only see. I don't know. It was actually like because I haven't done anything VR in a long time, but that was like definitely a step up from the last time I did anything VR. Like, and I'm pretty sure it's not like that's not like the highest level of VR stuff out there right now. So VR is coming a long way, which was interesting. But yeah, um, with that said, I let's talk Lil, which went down this past weekend, and Mew did it again in Europe, which
Yep.
was funny to see. And there was Spiritombs about. There's a Spiritomb in the deck in the finals. Arthur was playing a interesting Lost Box deck that we'll take a look at in a second, but we may as well just start with the first place list here, which was Consta with the Fusion Mew, and it was nothing too ridiculous, to be honest. Like, it was like pretty standard Fusion. There's one Trekking Shoes in there, and I think the other card that kind of stands out to me is like the Avery Roxanne over Iono. I've seen that before. The Avery, pretty good against like the Guardy matchup, and then had a one of Trekking Shoes, of course.
Yeah, so Consta actually played on the winning end to cut at Worlds and lost or tied. I don't remember what the result was, but either way, he did not make it into top 8. He actually finished in the top 16 at Worlds, so did not quite get in there. But that's a pretty good, yeah. I don't know if he played at the Barcelona special event, but as far as Europe goes, that's kind of the 2 tournaments he had, Worlds and then winning Lil. So big props to Consta. And he did play Mew at Worlds as well.
Is the list the exact same? I pulled up the list right now.
I don't think so, because it doesn't say on Limitless. Because normally it would list on Limitless that it was the exact same, right? It would say deck list played by, and it would have him twice.
They are the exact same, though.
Now that you're saying it, it does look the exact same.
Yeah.
Maybe that's only by season or something like that.
Maybe. Or format? Is it format locked?
Right, which list do you have pulled up here?
Both.
You have both.
And I'm switching between them, and nothing
They're
is
the
changing.
same. Yeah, they're the same.
But yeah, for anyone else that we're talking about here at the bottom of the Limitless page, you can see who the deck list was played by. And if you look at this one here, this is the one from Lil. There's 2 entries. Ojvind, or however you pronounce their name, got 9th actually with his exact same 60 that Consta played. But usually if it's the exact same 60 cards, it also shows it's the exact same 60 cards as a list that had gotten a placement in a different tournament. It would show that by the decklist played area as well. So that I don't know what Robin has it set to on Limitless, if it's like format based or season based. But yeah, we see the world's it's the exact same list. But does not.
That's pretty sick, honestly.
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy that because it's been 3 months, the meta's changed a bunch. He's just like, you know what, got top 16 at Worlds, just gonna roll up with it, and we'll see how it goes. And sure enough, I mean, something like the Ice Cube, right? That's something that's been pretty much removed from most Mew lists. Most people as well right now in the meta, it feels like they're on the DTE Mew with like the Luxray and stuff like that. But obviously Fusion Mew's still solid and probably paid off pretty nicely in that finals, since otherwise you just lose to Spiritomb like 90% of the time if you don't have Fusion Strike energy, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's probably like I don't know if that was a call that Consta made at all, to be honest. Consta maybe has just been playing the exact same Mew list for a long time. And that's just like, but like at Sacramento, there was a decent amount of Spiritomb at Sacramento for sure. I think I've said this multiple times. I maybe said it on the podcast last week, but I think like 4 of my first 7 rounds, 4 of the players had Spiritomb. Spiritomb in Charizard deck, Spiritomb in Rapid Strike, Spiritomb in Guardy. Like Spiritomb was literally in my first 4 of my first 7 rounds at Sacramento. Spiritomb was everywhere. And then like we said, Arthur had Spiritomb, got second place at this tournament. And Spiritomb is still good against the Fusion build as well, because it does make them have to play more awkwardly.
Yeah, you have to put Fusion Strike energies on your Genesects, and you have to be using your supporter for turn just to put energies on your Genesect so you can like actually play the game. So it definitely makes it a lot more awkward, and you It does slow, at minimum, slows down the Mew deck quite a bit, but also has the Ice Q in here. So even after Worlds, a lot of people, if they were sticking with the Fusion Strike build, moved away from Ice Q. Like you did that, right?
Yeah.
After Worlds for Pittsburgh, right? You didn't play the Ice Q anymore, moved on from that. And a lot of people started moving to Deoxys. We saw John Eng doing that in Pittsburgh. But it probably paid off pretty nicely for Constant because Spiritomb has come back around and has picked up quite a bit in play because of Mew still being a threat in the meta, but also because Spiritomb is actually just like really good against Lugia, and that just won the most recent North American regional. So I have to imagine that also has played a part in people's decision to include the card in their lists, right?
Yeah, especially in like if you're gonna auto win, well, seemingly auto win the more popular build of Mew, but it seems like it's coming around to the Fusion build, which makes sense. Like the Mew builds kind of have to go in and out depending on how popular Spiritomb is. And then the one reason to play the DTE build is that it has a better Charizard matchup, I feel like, definitely than the Fusion build, because you have like that handlock strategy with the Luxray and the Judge Path grabber stuff. But the Meloetta build doesn't really have room to do all that. And then your Charizard matchup gets tougher. And Charizard was like 12% of the meta. But yeah, Spiritomb, good against what seemed to be the better build of Mew, as it's the Mew build that can actually stand up to Charizard, which is the DTE build. But if someone's going to play Mew in the current meta where Spiritomb is becoming so popular, it's probably better to just like take the harder Charizard matchup and then just try and play against or to have the out to the Spiritomb, because if there's going to be Spiritombs and Charizard, you kind of have to pick your poison there, I guess. And it definitely worked out because Charizard just didn't do very well again. Charizard is in the top 2 most popular decks, 0 top 8s. The highest placing one was 10th, so 0 top 8s in the last 3 tournaments where it's been the most popular, second most popular, second most popular. And we can look at the meta shares for those right now.
Yeah, I just dropped them in our sheet so you can pull them up. But yeah, it is pretty crazy. And I definitely still think, we saw it win the Latin America regionals, right, in Curitiba. Yeah. And it's still been like one of the most popular decks. I think the deck is still really good. And I think it's definitely a deck that could win one of these tournaments, but things just haven't quite lined up perfectly yet for Charizard, I don't think. Like, it hasn't even broken into the top 8 at a North American or European region. Or sorry, the Lost Box version did get top 8 at the Barcelona special event, so we can't forget that. But that almost feels like a different deck than, the Arceus and the Fusion. Forest Sealstone versions of the deck. Those feel like both pretty similar to one another, right? The Lost Box deck, you have quite a bit more options to work with. But yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe is it like just stage 2 things? Like the deck is solid, has a good matchup spread, but when it comes down to it, 15, 16 rounds of Pokemon, or 14, 15 rounds of Pokemon, you just aren't quite piecing it together in those last couple rounds because of some of the inconsistencies with multiple evolutions. Do you think that could be a factor for these decks, like when you have to play so many rounds in these tournaments?
I think maybe the deck just isn't good enough. Like I think the deck is maybe just not good enough. I kind of almost put it in the Miraidon tier, where I feel like it's a fine deck, and if you've been playing it and like you're going to Toronto this weekend and you've been only playing Miraidon or only playing Charizard, you should probably play it. But I think it's one of those decks that just like can't win a tournament. I think Miraidon is more so it's got really bad matchups against a couple of the top decks, and Charizard is like all of its matchups are like fine, but it's just like not a good enough deck. Like it's just not powerful enough of a deck. And when I say powerful, I think you're maybe right that it is the consistency issue. Like if we're taking out, okay, when I say powerful, I'm just mean like it just can't get a high enough win percentage in a tournament. Unless there's enough good matchups for it. I don't know, maybe Fusion Mew getting more popular will be enough in like Toronto. If more people pick up the Fusion Mew build now that it just won, and Spiritomb has been so popular, it's like, okay, if there's all these Spiritombs going to be around to give themselves a better Lugia matchup, maybe now it's time to roll up with the Fusion Mew if I'm going to play Mew. But yeah, like for me, it's been feeling like I really like Charizard too. It's a really cool deck to play. I like both builds. I like the Arceus build. I like the Arven build. The Lost Zone build, you get more options with the Sableye, but it just doesn't feel as good. I think you definitely have a better Gardevoir matchup. That's like the one thing that I think you definitely pull as the Lost Zone, to have the Sableye to be able to clean up those heavily damaged Gardevoirs, because otherwise I think you do have a pretty bad Gardevoir matchup with the straight Pidgeot build or the Arceus build. I think both of us have pretty bad Gardevoir matchups, but yeah, I don't know. Overall, it kind of feels like the more and more I see of it, the more and more I play it, it does feel like it kind of falls into that tier of me of Miraidon, where it's like, I don't think this deck can win a tournament. Like if it got top 8 in Toronto, I wouldn't be surprised, but I would maybe be a little surprised if it did win.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it also is one of those things like anything can happen in Top Cut, you know? Like sometimes an unexpected deck gets in there and then just hits a really good bracket, right?
That's true.
You know, I mean, we saw friggin' Arceus Gyarados get second place at our last regionals, right? Nobody would have ever predicted that. So we'll just have to see exactly how it all breaks down. But as it went from day 1 to day 2 in Lille, we did see Lost Box kind of kept doing what it's been doing at these major tournaments, right? It's like one of the more popular decks in day 1 and then converts really well into the second day of the tournament.
Which didn't, when Lost Box was like first a deck, that wasn't the case. I feel like it used to be that Lost Box had like a bad conversion rate. And it's like, okay, it's maybe the hardest deck to play.
People have been playing it for like a year now. Like people have gotten the hang of what to do with their Lost Box decks, I feel like, right?
Yeah, and I feel like also a lot more better players are starting to play Lost Box as well. Because I feel like back when Lost Box was like first thing, well, it was competing up against like Lugia, so it was hard for anyone to not want to play Lugia. And then as things progressed more and more and more, I feel like more better players started picking up the Lost Box, which is also a contributing factor. But yeah, more people learning how to play the deck, finally being like, I'm not intimidated by. I talked about that like a while ago about Lost Box. It's like it felt like it was the intimidating deck. Like people are like, I don't really want to pick up Lost Box because everyone calls it the hardest deck in the format, which it probably is. But it's not like. It's not that hard. It's still Pokemon. You're still playing Pokemon. You can still like learn how to play the deck for sure.
It is difficult, but it is far from unapproachable, right?
Yeah. One other thing I could point out, I think we both mentioned that we wouldn't be surprised if this happened. Gardevoir was the most popular deck at 14%, which it probably had to get over 12. I think we mentioned that last week, was like we wouldn't be surprised. I think you specifically mentioned it, like, well, I could see Gardevoir definitely being the most popular deck in the tournament. I think we were like predicting like 12% for Gardevoir, if I remember correctly, and it did end up being the most popular.
We had it at 10, I think. We did have it at 10. But did end up being the most popular. Like it's just one of those things where it's like maybe not any of these decks, but like.
Well, I was just gonna say I think it's a European thing. I think European players just like Gardevoir more.
Dude, any of the I would have been surprised, I think, if Chien-Pao was the most popular deck. Definitely. But any of the other 5 decks on this meta share, I would have not been surprised to see it be number 1, to be honest. And that's just like the format that we're in right now. It's kind of like pick your poison, pick your typing, pick your flavor, whatever. Just a pretty like diverse, even across the board meta. A lot of the matchups run pretty close, right? There's a lot of like 60-40s out there, and then every deck it feels like has like one 70-30 matchup, but it's made up for by having another 30-70 matchup, right? Like one going the other way. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's tough to win a Pokemon tournament pretty much at any point in the history of the game, right? But right now specifically as well, I think you have to have the matchups. It almost feels like you have to have the matchups kind of fall more in your favor than maybe at other tournaments in the past. I don't know. Just because there's so many decks out there to play against. I don't know.
You mean like currently in the meta specifically, or?
Yeah. I mean, it's like something like Rapid Strike, for example. I mean, it won the Barcelona special event, but that's not going to happen if the guy sits down and plays against, Lugia, Mew.
Yeah, but that's always been Pokemon. I think that's always been a thing.
Well, it's just different. It's different in a meta like this where we look at this chart and it's so even across the board, right? It's not like there's a 20% deck, a 12% deck, and then a bunch of like 7% decks. Like which is, I think, in the past what has been more normal.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree with that. I think it is a little bit meta specific, right? Because we can go back to. I think we've recently had. Actually, we really haven't had that. We've either had the extremes on the other end. Like, we had the Lost Origins format, where it was like, oh, there was a ton of everything. And then, besides that, in this format, we've really just had the extremes. Lugia 30%, Mew 30%, Palkia 30%. And now we're getting back to another, like, similar format to, like, Lost Origins, where it's like,
Yeah, I'd be interested to go back and look at some of those meta shares from that Lost Origins format.
Kieran was number 1 by a lot. That was like...
Well, it's like, was it...
It was like 17% only, though, I think.
Yeah, but was it what I'm curious about is it
was like 14,
something
12,
like this
10,
where we're seeing 14, 13, 13, 12, 9, 9. Like that's all really close, or was it something like 17, 14, 9, 6, 7, something like that? And it's just like more it's like similar share, like a lot of decks at similar percentages, but the percentages are lower, you know what I mean?
I think it's pretty similar because I remember I think the last tournament in Salt Lake City, was that the last one in that format? It might have been, but I think that one had like uh Palkia was 14%, and then it was like, staggered down under that. So it was like it had to all be pretty close after that, I'm pretty sure. I don't know, it's been a while for sure. But other day
And
two
we
can
do, there's so
go ahead.
many of these tournaments, and we talk about all of them so in depth too. Like it just runs together, and it all bleeds together. I think it was Salt Lake. Looking back at it, that was the one you guys all had. There was like 3 of you guys in top 8
Yeah.
with Reggie's.
I didn't think Murata would be this popular. Once again, like kind of like I do feel like there are some differences with Europe. Like I said, Gardevoir more popular isn't surprised. I thought Murata would be a little bit less popular. Colors Lugia wasn't super popular, but it was like this is back-to-back weeks. So I think actually in general the community is starting to shift their idea behind picking decks and more so just kind of play what you're comfortable with. So I'm sure most of the players, prepping for Lille, they had already kind of locked in their decks. Lugia already looked like it had already been kind of burnt out as far as the deck goes. And then all of a sudden we see 4 of them in top 8 at Sacramento, but I don't think everyone is like, oh, well, now I have to go back and play Colors Lugia. They were like, well, I've been playing my Miraidon for the last 2 weeks. I've been playing my Chi and Power for the last 2 weeks. So Colors Lugia, I think Colors Lugia will be more popular in Toronto for sure. Like it's 9%. It went 9% into 9%. I think it was 9% at Sacramento or 8%. But I think we'll see like a 12% from Colors Lugia going into Toronto because now people have had time here in America to be like, well, it just dominated this tournament. I got 2 weeks to adjust for Toronto, and I want to pick up the Colors Lugia. So I think it'll be a little bit more popular.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
I don't think it's a surprise that it was only 9% at Lille because it was back-to-back weekends.
And with that, do you think with Colorless Lugia going up in play,
More spirited.
do you expect to see changes in like where do you expect the changes to come from, right? Because if Lugia is gaining meta share, something else has to lose some, right?
Gardevoir and Charizard.
Gardevoir loses.
Yeah, and it's not gonna be 14%. Like if you look at this day
Yeah.
one, I think Charizard as well, because I think Charizard hasn't fully, because of the separation of the regions and people not having their tournaments yet. There was a lot of hype of Charizard after LAIC, or not after Latin American special event. Or not special event, it's Latin American regional. There was a ton of hype off Charizard, but because of how close together our 2 tournaments were after that, and then Lille being the first tournament over in Europe, I don't think Charizard's had its hype die down because the events have happened so quickly in a row here that I think finally we'll see. I think we'll see Charizard go under 10%. That's my prediction for Toronto. Charizard will go under 10%. I think now everyone has had their moment to play their Charizard at their tournament. We had back-to-back in Peoria into Sacramento, so there wasn't time for people to drop the Charizard deck because that's what they've been playing, prepping for Sacramento. So they still played it at Sacramento, so it's still 14% at Sacramento after 15% at Peoria. But now we've had our 2 events back-to-back. Lille had their event. They weren't able to see the kind of lackluster performances from Charizard before their event came around. Now that that's happened, I think going into Toronto for the next North American event, I think finally we'll see Charizard go under 10 because it has felt super underwhelming for how much it's been played, right? Like its results have been just super underwhelming, right? Besides, of course, the one result or past the one result over in Curitiba. Like Curitiba was the event where it's like, oh my gosh, but it was a new build that kind of came out of nowhere, so people didn't know how to probably play against it as well. And he had some of the best players over in Latin America playing it as well, right? So I think that was like it was the combination of those 2 things that really led to its huge success. But I think the deck was not quite. The deck isn't as good as its success was in Curitiba, but good players playing a new build, that's always going to lead to like some above average results, right?
I mean, and who knows too, in Toronto, maybe a group of players would look at the meta and feel like Charizard has a better chance right now. And I mean, that's kind of what happened with Chi and Pao in why it was so much more popular in Peoria, right? Because like a ton of good players decided to pick it up. I mean, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised necessarily to see something like that happen with Charizard. But I do feel like, and we'll talk more about Toronto shortly, but I do feel like, this is the last tournament in the format. A lot of the best players are kind of prepping a little bit ahead towards LAIC, right? That is like definitely a smaller percentage of the player base for sure that is going to be competing in the tournament. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are looking towards the new set. People are probably just going to play what their favorite deck has been this past format, or like what they've felt the most comfortable with, something you mentioned already. I feel like that's where the majority of people, like a lot of people are probably just not that worried about the result of Toronto for themselves, right?
Yeah, that's also possible. I mean, Charizard might just show up at 30% again. And then but deck might be a little bit better than I'm giving it credit for as well. I think one thing we haven't seen from Charizard, which is an impact to how well decks will perform, is like the quality of players playing the deck, right? We did have quite a few good players playing it in Peoria, and it was like 3 of them in top 16. So that's like the best success we've seen from Charizard outside of the Latin American event. Outside of the Latin American event, but I don't know if I can name. I can look at it right now. I don't know if I can. If I recognize, we'll see. Let me go look at them right now. If I recognize any of the names of like the European players playing Charizard at this one, right? So like that is going to be a factor always. What are the best players playing? And I feel like Charizard overall has not been a deck that some of the best players have been gravitating for. So maybe that's the only difference here, to be honest. Because like when I play the deck, like I like the deck. I think it's solid. But its results keep coming up super weak for how popular it is. Like it's like surprisingly bad results for how popular the deck is. For sure.
Well, let's recap what our predictions were for this tournament and kind of how we did. So we predicted for Lille that one of the questions we asked was, will a non-European make top 8? I said no. Azul said yes. And Azul was not correct. The best finishing non-European player, I believe, was Brent Tonneson at 32nd. I don't think I'm missing anyone, right?
No, I think you're right. At 32nd. Yeah, Brent Tonneson at 32nd. And then Haru from Japan was at 34th. So they're pretty close to each other there. So yeah, Brent, I was called out Brent specifically to be the non-European to make top 8, but Brent not able to pull out another top 8, unfortunately for me. So Chip gets the dub on that prediction.
Our next one, I don't know that either of us can really claim a dub from this one, was what is the highest placing Arceus deck? After Arceus did pretty decently in Sacramento, it was kind of a little bit more on people's radars. Top 32. I missed this one when I was scrolling through earlier. So there was a top 32 Arceus Duraludon with the Mawile, maybe taking a book out of Braden Elfert's, a page out of Braden Elfert's book.
A book out of Braden Elfert's book.
Out of his page.
Yeah, so pretty much just
it's late, been at the parks, give me a break.
Yeah, it looks like just copying Braden's build and making a couple adjustments. Only the one Mawile.
Did cut a Mawile, right?
Yeah, what? Only can have access to 2 Mawile now with the Super Rod, not 4 like Braden's build. I don't know if that's correct. Also, still only on the 3 path. I talked about this when we looked at Braden's build last week, and I was like, "Your Arceus B-Barrel. How are you not playing 4 path to the peak?" But no 4 path. Maybe that's the difference maker though. Maybe Braden would have got top 8. Braden, if you had a 4th path, I think you would have got top 8. I'm just saying. And Clark probably another top 8 as well. Would have had an Arceus in top 8 there. And I did predict an Arceus in top 8, but you only predicted a top 16. So
I missed this one when I was scrolling through it first, though. I thought that the top 64 was the highest finishing one. So I mean, I had top 16, top 32, and he got 21st, right? Like that's pretty close to top 16.
Not good enough though. And the last prediction we had was over under on 3.5 rating Greninja in top 8, and there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
5, yeah.
Chip had the over on that. There was 5, and I did pick the under. But yeah, the rating Greninjas did come through, which is not a surprise. By far the most powerful rating Pokemon we have. So a lot of decks are utilizing it.
Yeah, bro, you gotta step your game up on these predictions, huh?
Yeah, I guess. I guess we can take a look at a couple of the other top 8 lists here. Talk about
or just other interesting things from the tournament as well, because there was some kind of funky stuff in day 2. A Banette EX made it on the stream. I kind of want to talk about that one first, I guess. So I said, I've been on vacation. I haven't really looked super in depth at it, but when I hopped on Twitter, this is what I was seeing a lot of people talking about, was this Banette thing. I know, did you end up doing VOD reviews of the tournament on your Twitch, Azul? Mm-hmm. So you watched this thing in action. Yeah. What the heck? What's going on with this deck? What's the goal? And how good actually is it?
I don't think it's very good overall in the meta. I think it's like okay. But yeah, the goal, like the match we saw was Mateus versus I'm literally blanking on who Mateus played against. But I know them too. Like I know the name, but now I'm like completely blanking on. Was it Magnus? Good, bro. It wasn't Magnus. Magnus played Guardy.
I'll pull up the Pokestats
page. Pull up the Pokestats, yeah. But the point of the deck is the item lock with Banette EX. With its first attack, the Everlasting Darkness, 30 damage during your opponent's next turn. They can't play any item cards from their hand. Item cards are pretty good. So stopping your opponent from playing item cards is also pretty good. Not being able to play item cards is pretty bad for most decks, but it only does 30 damage. So the matchup we saw on stream was against Lost Box specifically. So you just kind of sit up there with your Banette EX and do 30 damage over and over and over again for a really long time until you've got a big enough advantage by trapping Pokemon in the active, by using the Radiant Alakazam to move the damage off.
Was it against Fabian or Rune?
It was Rune, yeah. It was Rune.
Rune.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of the game plan. Your other matchups, to be honest, I have no clue. You can use Shadow Rider plus Path to the Peak to beat Lugia. So you attack with Shadow Rider, which says your opponent can't play any stadiums, or Special Energy. A lot of people have been cutting the Punkaboo from their Lugia decks. So you can sit there and do 10 damage over and over and over and over again until you, I guess that's just how you win the game. Because I don't see...
So it's like you have to go second.
Well,
I guess you don't have to go second.
go first.
Oh, yeah, what am I saying? You have to, on your first turn of being able to attack with Shadow Rider with a path in play. And if you do that, you win the game. If you don't... Well, actually, do you even win? Because, like, you don't have any guaranteed no deck out, right?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at here. You have 4 Iono in the Banette that lost owns itself to get a card. But you could, I mean...
You're probably digging super hard to get this Shadow Rider playoff, though. You're going to play a lot more cards, I would assume, than the Lugia player will.
Well, you play the Arvin, so you can, like, get 4 Seal Stone plus, like, Escape Rope. Like, that can just, like, you can go Luminian for Arvin, do the combo, probably. Yeah, there's no way to stop yourself from decking out, right? So do you just... What if they put a V-Guard on a Lugia? Because you don't have any heavy hitters in this deck. There's no heavy hitters. The Banette can hit pretty hard. Actually, that's not true. The Banette with the Poltergeist, Psychic Colors.
The Banette clears whatever your opponent's active is at the right time, right?
Yeah, if you lock them up with the Everlasting Darkness, then hit him with the Poltergeist. But then after that point, then they can just like always play down all their items, and they have no items in their hand. Of course, I mean, there's just a lot of trainer cards in every single deck, right? So you can't play more than one supporter. Yada, yada, yada. But then besides that, there's like the 2 Guardi EX, which is, you don't use 2, but you use 1 to be able to like move your Banettes around and have kind of infinite energy to work with. And then you have Cheryl in there to heal the Banettes. So you can like attack with one Banette, retreat to another Banette, retreat to another Banette, Cheryl all 3 Banettes, stuff like that. There's a Mew EX in here. Once again, I only saw one matchup. I played 0 games with the deck, so I haven't thought about the deck too hard. But there's a Mew EX in here, and that copies attacks. Yeah, overall, I don't think the deck is like great or anything like that, but it's a really cool deck. And yeah, they did get was it Mateus that got top 32 with it, which it's just pretty sick to see a deck like this like do decently. It's just kind of sick to see that it's possible.
Yeah, really cool. Someone bringing their own homebrew. I mean, we've talked about this before, right? How it feels like there's no room for innovation, right? But in reality, there's
little room.
A good enough player playing something unique can show up, and there's definitely a huge edge to your opponent not knowing what the heck you're trying to do, like what your game plan is. Yeah. It's probably pretty straightforward with Banette. Like you realize what's happening to you on the second turn of the game. Yeah. But I have to imagine there's like a decent amount of people that you bench a Shuppet and they just got no clue what's coming, right?
The amount of people who didn't know how to play around Seismitoad EX, like, yeah. There's people who just don't know what Banette EX does. Everyone knew what Seismitoad did and still didn't know how to play their item cards correctly. So yeah, I'm sure Mateus had a huge advantage against the majority of players that they played against for sure. And speaking
there are a few better feelings at a Pokemon Regionals than playing a card and then your opponent has to pick it up and read it right away.
Dude, it's so funny though that you say it though, because I've had times where my opponent picks up and reads the card and then plays right into the card on their turn. Like I'm just like, bro, you just read the card.
Dude, my favorite story about this. Oh, it was one of our local buddies, Chris Watkins. I think you've met him. He doesn't really play anymore, but I still talk. He's like in our group chats and we talk all the time. But he at a cup back in like 2018. Bless his heart, man. His opponent benches. I don't even remember what Chris was playing, but like his opponent benches a what was it called? Why am I blanking on its name? The lightning guy that Special Energy can't touch it. What am I? Xurkitree GX. Yeah. His opponent benched it. I don't remember the like exact situation, but all I know, he might have picked it up, read it, bossed it up, and tried to attack into it with something with a Special Energy on it. And it's like, dude, did you read? My opponent benches a basic with an ability. I'm just not going to read the ability.
They bench it for a reason. It's got to be scary. All right, I'm going after it. Let's see what happens.
He might not have like Lysandered it that turn. Or Guzma, I guess at the time. I don't remember like the exact situation, like I said, but I know for a fact He picked it up, read it, and then at some point in the game attacked into it for 0 damage.
Yeah, but speaking of cool, interesting stuff, Arthur had a pretty interesting Lost Box list that they played. I feel like I think Arthur has maybe played Cross Switcher Lost Box before, because I've seen Arthur's name before, and I've seen Cross Switcher Lost Box before as well. But it's basically like a fairly, I don't know, it's down the, I would just call this Lost, it's like not turbo though. It's not, only 2 vacuum, not 3, only 2 Forcioso, not 3, no Pokey Stops, has the Beach Court and the Artisan, which is definitely interesting considering that you have all these other important item cards in the deck in the Cross Switchers. So I was really trying not to mill Pokemon or energy or the supporters. And the games that I watched from Arthur, the Roxannes were like super important for closing out games. So probably was not trying to mill Roxanne. Could have included a Palpad, I guess, but was not trying to mill the Roxannes with Pokestops. But yeah, basically like a pretty standard Lost Box deck. Had the Ditto in there, so increased odds of effectively opening Comfey. And then had the Spiritomb as well, which was pretty effective in the top 4 match, if I'm remembering it correctly, up against the Lugia from Patrick. And then, yeah, Cross Switchers in there as your Gust effects, plus extra switch cards, only 3 escape up, 3 switch cards, so made some room there for the Cross Switchers, but they are effectively switch cards in themselves. Then threw a Canceling Clone in there as well. If you got the Cross Switchers in there, you may as well include the Canceling Clone so you can combo and get around the Manaphy with your own Greninja. So, yeah, definitely an interesting build of Lost Box for sure. That has some powerful options. I'm definitely not sold on this being the new way to play Lost Box. I'm not going to lie, but I think it's a pretty cool build nonetheless. I think maybe this might be like proof that Ditto's correct, though. That's the one thing the biggest thing I took away from this is this, like, maybe Ditto is like the increased odds of opening Comfey is like seems pretty decent. I was talking about it with my chat as well. We were doing the math on it, on how much percentage it actually increased, and like, I don't know, that might be worth it. The Ditto might be worth.
Yeah, and then once again, it comes back to you playing something that your opponent doesn't expect, which is what the Cross Switcher Canceling Cologne combo can be. And it's not like really your Lost Box opponents, like in the mirror match, could really do anything to even play around this. Nope. But
just happens.
It just exists, right? And if your opponent ever plays themselves into Roxanne, which as the Lost Box player in the mirror match, you want to try to play around Roxanne at this point, I think, as much as possible. Obviously, at some point, you're probably going to have to go into it, depending on the situation. But I have to imagine, like, anytime someone, like, plays into the being able to be Roxanne, he was just able to go, like, yep, Cross Switcher, that Manaphy, Canceling Cologne, Roxanne, you've got 2 cards, and I KO'd both your Comfeys. What are you going to do?
Yeah, definitely some pretty powerful combos in the mirror match for sure. So yeah, it does, like, lose a little bit out on, like, doesn't have the 4th switch card. But does have the double Roxanne.
A little minus on the consistency. Well, it's like you don't have the 4th switch card, 4th escape rope, but you have 2 cross switch or 4 cross switchers. The 2 uses of cross switcher, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the healing.
Oh yeah, sure.
But yeah, you do still have, like, your switch cards are accounted for with that. But yeah, definitely a cool build from Arthur for sure. With the Lost Zone. Owen was playing the Chi and Pow deck and got 3rd place. Patrick was playing Colorless Lugia. I don't think there was anything too wild in a Weird Ear Believer, no Radiant Art. I think those are like the 2 main things to point out. That's like kind of it in the Colorless Lugia build here from Patrick. Like I said, yeah, Owen is playing just cookie cutter Chi and Pow deck at this point. Chi and Pow Excalibur, right? The exact same 60 that Grant Shen has been playing the last 2 weekends, I think. Oh, and actually, we look down here. You can see Grant Shen's placements.
Exactly what we were talking about earlier, right?
All the placements down here with his exact 60. It looks like 3 people actually got top 32 with his exact 60.
Yep. It feels like every single format for the last, like, 3 formats, there's been one deck that has gotten super refined, and there's just become like a blanket, this is the best 60 cards, right? Like,
and then the Limitless page starts to get built up.
Yeah. Like, I remember the Ian Robb Lugia deck pre-rotation, right?
Yeah.
Had a massive amount of people playing it.
The Reagan single strike.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I feel like Grant Shen
and
is usually
Xian Pao has
playing
just become that deck now at this point, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Grant Shen is usually involved in playing those decks for the most part. Definitely played the Reagan Lugia, played this one as well. Maybe just following Grant Shen is the move. Whatever Grant Shen plays at tournaments, it's going to be part of a big Limitless page. Maybe you just want to be part of that. The rest of it, Alberto got top 8 with a Lost Tina. Lost Tina was pretty popular into day 2 as well. It wasn't on the top 6 decks in the day 1 graphic, but it was 10% in day 2. So Lost Tina, is it making a little bit of a comeback? Probably not. The deck's still not very good. Alberto's just good at the game. I'm gonna go ahead and give Alberto the credit here, not the deck. But no escape rope, I think, was like the big standout here. There's not too much to talk about. Also, 2 Iono, 2 Roxanne. So a lot of hand disruption as well. A lot of hand disruption, a lot of path.
Yeah, when your deck isn't very good, you got to play extra draw supporters. That's what we see with the double Iono, double Roxanne, right?
Yeah, obviously I'm just joking a little bit. Lost Tina is a fine deck. I'm not going to give it too much credit, though. It's a fine deck. Alberto's pretty good at the game, though, so I like giving the pilot the credit when the deck is mid.
Yeah, I do like. I think if you wanted to play Lost Tina, though, this list seems like really good. I will say, like,
yeah. Well, that is one thing I was
kind of the way I like to build lists as well. It's just like pretty consistent, straightforward, not a lot of text or anything like that. This is just a clean looking deck list, you know?
Yeah. I was one thing I was gonna say, like, even though I'm not a huge fan of Lost Tina, when I looked at this list, I was like, ooh, I really like this list. And I had that exact same impression from Stefan's Lost Tina list that he posted on Twitter a little while ago. I was like, ooh, I like this Lost Tina list. And it inspired me to try out Lost Tina again. And then I once again did not like Lost Tina. But I like this Lost Tina list. So if you're going to play Lost Tina and you don't have a list, but you're going to play Lost Tina, I would say pick up Alberto's list because this list looks super clean. Big fan of the way that list looks. Of course, if I picked up and played with it, I probably wouldn't be a big fan of it. But you could just not play any games with it and then just bring it to Toronto, and then you're locked in once round 1 starts, so you can't change decks anyways. There was another Mew in top 8, Gabor with the grabber Mew. And this is pretty close to the list that Rowan
I hardly
played.
know her.
It's pretty close to the list that like Rowan, I think, initially popularized from, was it Peoria? Pittsburgh? Peoria, yeah.
Peoria, yeah.
Yeah, so Grabber Mew, top 8 from Gabber. Gabber is a big Mew stan. I don't think this is Gabber's first top 8 with Mew. It's like the third, maybe, or second, maybe third top 8 with Mew at major tournaments. So doing it again with the Mew. Gudra squeaked in to the top 8 as well. This is that build that won in seniors at Peoria. This one in the seniors division in Peoria and has gained a little bit of traction. And we see it getting a top 8 here, piloted by, I don't even want to try and pronounce their first name because I've tried in the past. I'm pretty sure I always get it wrong.
Is it not Hermione?
I don't know. Is it? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It seems like a pretty straightforward name to me. Hermione, yeah.
All right, maybe it's more straightforward than I thought. I've never thought about pronouncing it that way. Hermione. Or maybe I have. But yeah, Hermione, top 8, the Gudra. Also,
I could be wrong. Now you've got me tripping out like I'm saying it wrong. But yeah, and it looks like Hermione's, Hermione did get second place at Bochum with this deck. Got 9th place at EUIC, so it has been a Gudra believer for a while now, it looks like.
Yeah, and I believe got top 8 at EUIC with Gudra as well. No, it was close.
I just said got 9th place at EUIC.
9th place at EUIC. Okay, I didn't hear the EUIC part. My bad. Top 16. I knew they were like on the winning in or something like that. But yeah, Gudra stand for a while. Lost on Gudra. Is it back? I don't know. It's definitely interesting. The deck's like got a pretty good colorless Lugia matchup because you like get the Gudra attacking with the Spiritomb on the bench so they can't Weird Ear and like blow up your Gudra. And then it's kind of hard to get to the Gudra, so you can kind of just get ahead in the prize exchange. Zamazenta hits pretty hard. You're kind of a lost box. If up against other lost box decks, you're just effectively a lost box deck. Without the Gudra. Like, you just don't use the Gudra. You just use Cram, Sableye, stuff like that. So I think you probably do suffer a little bit in the Lost Zone mirrors, but I don't know. The deck's interesting for sure. I don't know if it's like, I don't know if we're going to see it make a comeback, but it definitely seems like it's at least solid in the current meta.
Yeah. I think it's the type of deck that now it's more on the map. I think like in Pittsburgh or even Peoria, if you played against someone playing this deck, you would be like pretty surprised. Like, oh, someone's still playing Gudra. But now I think if you hit someone in Toronto playing Gudra, you shouldn't be that surprised. Like, it's definitely not a popular deck, but people are going to be out there playing it for sure.
Yeah, and then the last one to mention in top 8 was just Fabian with the Gardevoir, and nothing too crazy in this one. Had the Champions Festival.
There's two kind of unique cards in here that we don't ever really see in this deck at this point.
One of them is for good reason why we don't see it in any deck. Champions Festival has always been hyped up as a card in Gardevoir, and Champions Festival is just good in Gardevoir in general. Specifically, like in the Lost Box matchup, it can be kind of cool too to like clean up Sableye damage, stuff like that. It's like less good now though. Now you have reversal to combo with Shiny Arcana Gardevoir. It's like less important to have the access to something like Champions Festival. So it's definitely become worse with the release of reversal. But it's not bad if you just want another counter stadium. And the other card is the Zinnia's Resolve, which I don't know about that one to be honest. Zinnia's Resolve is a pretty terrible draw supporter overall. I guess it is like kind of next in line though.
It's draw 6 off the top. That's insane.
It kind of is maybe next in line though, right? behind research in Iono. And in Gardevoir, you do get to those points where you got like a really big hand and you're like, I don't want to Iono this because I don't care about disrupting my opponent's hand. I definitely am not researching this hand away. Building on this hand is pretty cool, but that's usually where we see people start to play workers. Is because not only does it build on your hand, it also like removes your opponent's stadium from play as well. But Zinnias can draw more.
Worker probably feels worse though when you're playing a stadium like Champions Festival in your deck, right? Like something you would not mind being in play for multiple turns, right?
I guess that's fair. And then what were the other stadiums that Fabian actually played? Artisan Collapse. Those ones you don't care about as much, I guess. But
yeah, you don't really mind if Artisan stays around, I guess. But yeah, Collapse you definitely don't care about.
Yeah, I guess the only other thing is, like I mentioned, there's only one Charizard in top 16, most popular deck in day 1. It did fall off from day 1 to day 2 in terms of meta share. That went from 13 to 10. I didn't talk about those fully. Miraidon went from 12 to 9. Chi and Pao went up from 9 to 11. Like I said, Lost Tina made its way onto the top 16. Did you have any other decks that you wanted to point out? Oh, I guess there was the Block Snorlax stall deck from Alessandro. Wait, there was 2 of them actually. Wait, there was 2 Alessandros playing Snorlax stall. I saw one Alessandro backs, and I thought maybe just Cremasoli had changed their last name or something. But then I was like, wait a second. And then I looked lower, and I was like, wait, there's another one. So I'm gonna pull up both these lists real fast. We'll take a quick look at them. This is the only other deck that I'm aware of. Was there any other decks in day 2 that you were interested in?
Yeah, there's one more I do want to talk about. The 40th place Urshifu deck. But we can talk about this first. The Block Snorlax, and we talked about it a little bit last week because someone made day 2 in Sacramento with this deck. This list has the Pidgeot in there, which I don't think the Sacramento player had in their deck, right? Just lets you kind of shore up some of those win cons, I guess, right? The Erica's Invitation, obviously a new card from 151 that's really good in this deck.
And these
at
look
the right
like
time, but it's just about like hitting it at the right time, right?
Yeah, this looks like they were. I mean, as far as I can tell, the Alessandros were scheming together for sure. Is there like an Alessandro group chat or something where like, because as far as I can tell, this is like basically the exact same 60. There's like one VIP.
They are both from Italy.
Oh, it's coming together. It's all come together here. If you're an Alessandro out there and you're in need of testing partners. No, but yeah, look, looks like there's a battle VIP pass in one list, but they're very. I can't imagine 2 different players came up with control Snorlax builds this similar. So I imagine they work together. I don't know for sure, but 1 + 1 = 2, I think, in this scenario. But yeah, I have no idea how good this deck is in the current format. The Pidgeot's cool. Constantly being able to get what you want out of your deck is pretty cool for sure. And yeah, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know how this deck wins games, for the most part, you just set up the Snorlax with the block, you put it in the active, and you've got something in the active on your opponent's side of the field that is hard to move or impossible to move in cases like a Gardevoir. If they like open Manaphy or Greninja or something, you just get into the active and you leave it trapped in the active for like the whole game. So yeah, it was cool to see control kind of back on the map a little bit at the very least. You got some really good matchups. This deck has some really good matchups, but also some really bad matchups. Like Gardevoir is actually one of the matchups where it's like almost unwinnable if they get their bench filled out right. You can't really beat them because everything can become a Gardevoir or can attack.
Yeah. You'd have to play some really cheesy combo of like Collapse Stadium plus Lost Vacuum, right?
Yeah.
So you collapse, get rid of, open up a bench space, then vacuum, then Erica's or Horn, whichever one. And it's just like fitting the space for that combo is probably, and like finding the pieces for that combo is just not really realistic. I mean, I guess like Arven, and like you hope your hand doesn't get disrupted. You just try to set it up, right? Maybe it wouldn't be that bad.
There's no side. Oh, there is a Silene, so there's potential for like infinite. You could like infinitely penny loop with the Silene. There's 3 Pokestop in here, which I imagine are for deck out purposes, to get yourself to deck out sooner. So yeah, maybe it is possible. Maybe the Gardevoir's not that bad. You could trap like a Mew. I guess if they only have Ralts Gardevoirs, maybe it's not possible. But yeah, definitely interesting.
And then I do want to talk about that 40th place Urshifu deck with the Rayquaza VMAX and 4 Cheryl in the deck. So I saw this one on Twitter. Like I said, like, being on vacation, I haven't looked super in depth at everything, but I did just notice this list, and it's like, dang, this guy really played 4 Cheryl in the deck.
And that used to be the way you played Inteleon VMAX. It used to be a 4 Cheryl deck. You play like, and you'd be like a deck out deck almost. Like you'd be not a deck out deck.
Cheryl, that's a name I haven't heard in quite some time.
Yeah, I used to play the Inteleon, where you'd have Inteleon VMAX plus the Inteleon to find with the shady dealings to find your Cheryls. Is it coming back around? Maybe. And then now you don't have shady dealings, unfortunately, I guess, for the quad Cheryl build, but you do have the Rayquaza as some kind of draw build to be able to consistently get through your deck to most
Yeah.
likely find the Cheryls and be able to chain them.
Yeah. A forgotten aspect of the Rayquaza is the fact that it's a Rapid Strike Pokemon. So you can set it up with the Octillery and you get free retreat with the Tower of Waters. You could attach
Also
your
got
Rapid Strike
320.
energy to it. It's not going to do you really any good. You can't use its attack, but that you can do that if you so desired. And I guess the question for me is like, is this so? Urshifu just on paper has really good matchups and really bad matchups. This is not like really a deck that has very many 50-50s. And one of the bad matchups has been Lugia. And so I have to imagine that's what the Cheryl is trying to be for. And maybe it's okay against Mew as well. Mew probably still just eventually gets there because they're so much more aggressive than something like the Lugia. But yeah, is the combination of 4 Cheryl plus Spiritomb enough to beat Lugia? Would kind of be my question. And I feel like it probably is, right?
Yeah, I'd have to imagine, unless you're able to like. Well, the biggest attacker in the matchup is like the Weird Ear, because you can like a Weird Ear boss
and that's
KO
what
the
Spiritomb
Urshifu.
does for you, right?
So it depends like how early like but Lugia can get off like some pretty aggressive starts where it's like, and the I don't know, like the Cheryls is definitely for that matchup though. You got the Spirit, and there's no Pokemon recovery in this list either. No Claras, no Super Rod. So if they get the boss on the Spiritomb, then the Weird Ear can come out to play. But I would imagine with the Cheryls, like it does allow you to like win. That's actually like one of the differences between the single strike build and this build. Like the single strike build almost always beats the Urshifu deck through just outlasting them. They just win the trade by hitting back and forth. You have Serena, you have V-Guard energy. Single strike just beats you with Serena and V-Guard energy, basically. But up against the colorless build, without the Serena, it's harder to protect your Archeops. So it's easier for the Rapid Strike deck to like threaten your Archeops and remove them from play. So then you want to be like a little bit more of the aggressor as like the colorless Lugia. In this matchup, you want to utilize Mew to copy G-Max Rapid Flow and use Weird Ear to get big one-hit KOs. And then overall, it's still hard for them to KO your Lugias as well. Like your Lugia is still resistant to fighting, and then also has 280 HP. Put a V-Guard on there, not even the Intelligence to it KOing it. But that means like the colorless Lugia build, their hits, if you can like eliminate all their hits that you're hitting with the Lugia in the early game, Cheryl those away, then it does become kind of maybe you can just win through the Cheryl, to be honest. Maybe you don't even like set up Urshifu. I guess you need Urshifu to respond to the Weird Ear though. I guess you have Spiritomb. I don't know. Like that's definitely interesting for sure. I would assume it helps, but also Cheryl's like a dead card in a lot of situations. So sometimes just having more Cheryls doesn't really do anything for you, especially if they're like bossing your Artillery and you can't actually find your Rapid Strike energy later to combo with the Cheryl if you get like Iono or something. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Definitely
it's
at minimum. Yeah, definitely at minimum, a very interesting take on the deck that I wanted to point out.
The Rayquaza is a little weird too because it takes up your bench space, so it's harder to set up like the board of Radiant Alakazam plus Medicham to pull the Yoga Loop plays off when Ray's around. So then in those situations, you have to like not set up Ray, but then it's like 2 more dead cards in your deck, which can get weird.
Yeah, I wonder if in this deck it would be good to play something like the Thornton to, swap Spiritomb for something else, or which is something we've seen. I think Victor Ung had the
Thornton,
the Thornton, I'm pretty sure, right? In Sacramento. And then, or maybe you play even something like Volo, right? Just ditch the Rayquaza or something like that. I don't know. Definitely an interesting deck. Anything else as you want to talk about in Lille? And if not, we can move on to Toronto.
Oh, I think that wraps up Lille.
Well, let's move on then to Toronto, of course, coming up this weekend. I'm actually going to be playing in Toronto, not working. I am playing. I've not played a regionals in quite a while now. What did I play? I played Milwaukee this past year, right? So that's like 6 months at this point. So definitely looking forward to it. The last Pokemon tournament I played like at all was a cup like 2.5 months ago before Worlds. So yeah, definitely excited to get out there and play. But yeah, the big question, I guess, is like, how does the meta change, if at all, with results from Lille, based on what we've known from the couple of American regionals we've had in the last few weeks. And like I mentioned earlier, I feel like, with this being the last tournament of a format, with a lot of people already focusing their attention onto the new set, people are just going to kind of play what they know and what they're comfortable with. That's my big, bold prediction.
I mean, I think that's like, I feel like that's become more and more what people are doing at region, which I think is a good thing for like the vast majority of players. You shouldn't be playing 3 or 4 decks the 2 weeks leading up to the major tournament you're going to, and then pick which one you think is the best play for the tournament. You should just pick one deck that's a solid deck, get good at it, and make that your focus. And like, even though I'm not a huge fan of Miraidon, you still see like really good players choosing to play it. Jesse, JW are like great examples, and they're still getting these top 8s at these regional championships. And even though I wouldn't say Miraidon is like I said, I don't think Miraidon's a deck to win a tournament. I mean, if you just play a good deck and you play well, anything's possible, right? So, stop. People need to stop trying to predict what is the best play for a tournament and just focus on playing well with a good deck. So I think we'll see kind of similar stuff. I think Charizard will take a dip.
Do you not focus on what is the best deck for a tournament?
For the vast majority of players.
Okay.
For the vast, like the only people who probably who have the ability to not worry about that is probably like 0.1% of players or less. Like, but I think we'll see. Like,
it's not that low. Like, it's like probably 1% though, for sure. Like, definitely,
it's less than 1%.
It's
like 1%. Sure.
I do think that people as well. I mean, you're never going to get to that point though if you don't jump out of your comfort zone and make that leap at some point as well, right?
Well, yeah, I don't think you should like be playing Mew for 8 tournaments in a row when everyone's playing 2 Drapion in every single deck. But if you're like prepping for do like a baseline meta analysis like 2 or 3 weeks before a tournament and be like, okay, what do I think are the good plays for this tournament? Which one do I think is the best? And then, all right, I'm going to pick that deck and play the deck. Even if it's a deck you've never played before. If you got 3 weeks before a tournament to grind games with the deck, put in the time and you'll be fine, you should definitely not play a deck, only one deck forever, especially when it becomes like pretty obvious that the meta is pretty hostile towards it. But if you don't get to that point, then yeah, pick whatever seems like the best in the moment.
Just so you know, what did you say? 0.001% of players.
0.1.
0.1% of players. So 0.1% of players. So like at a 1,500 person tournament, if it's 0.1% of players.
All right, maybe that's a little bit low. 1%. We'll call it 1%.
That's 1.5 players.
All right, maybe 1% then. 1%. 1% then. 1 of every 100. That seems fine. That seems usual. 1 of every 100 players probably is good enough at the game to maybe make the switch 2 nights before a tournament to a deck they think is better. But even then, if you already have a deck that you're well practiced with and it's a good play, it's probably still the correct play to choose that deck. Yeah, it's just me. I'm the only person.
Bold, man. I mean,
definitely not.
Everyone recognizes you're pretty good at this game, man. But I mean, I just don't expect to hear you coming out and saying it like that. Come on now. All right, and on this week's episode, we'll be having a discussion on humility. Azul, the floor is yours.
No, I definitely, if I had more time, I would like to spend more time prepping with the deck that I probably am going to play for the tournament. Even like, yeah, I would like to do that, but I just don't have time, so I go with a little bit of a different route. But if we look at, let's just take like the day one meta from Lil real fast, and let's say what things we're going to change, at least from the top 6, or if we think one of these decks is going to leave the top 6. But I think this will probably be the top 6. Top 6
probably. Porter will probably switch up a little bit. Maybe Tina sneaks in there. I mean, it's been right outside.
It'll stay outside.
But I just don't think it's going to jump over Chien Pao at this point, especially since we're in Canada, the land of the goated Chien Pao list.
Oh, that's true, yeah. The Chien Paos are coming for sure.
Absolutely. I think Lugia goes up and Charizard goes down, I guess. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gardevoir go down just like a little bit, but I don't think it's ever below 10.
I think it'll be 10. It being 14 is, well, it being 14 out of North America.
14 is high, for sure. It's higher than it has been. Yeah.
I think
but I don't think, I think it's like in a position in the meta where people just see it's like it doesn't really have any bad matchups, and that's pretty enticing to a lot of people, right?
Yeah, until you go 003 or 009 or whatever, and then you're like, maybe I should have left it.
So what are your opinions on Gardevoir now that you've run it for a tournament?
I've run it for 2 tournaments now. I still think I think it just, the format puts a lot of strain on the deck. The best 2 out of 3, 50 minutes puts a lot of strain on the deck. But I don't think that means we should go play best of 1 all of a sudden. I just think it just makes it you have to be really in tune with the deck and like put a lot of time into it to make sure you can play at a pretty fast pace of play to make sure you're closing out your games. So yeah, I would say unless you have a lot of experience with Gardevoir, I don't think there's any point in ever considering Gardevoir as a play. And I think Lost Box is almost in that category as well, but not quite. Especially if you're playing the 2 prize builds.
What's the most popular deck day one?
Lugia. I'm gonna go Colorless Lugia.
I think it's Lost Box.
No way. Not after all
It
the
was
Colorless
Lost
Lugia.
Box and Sack. It was Lost Box and Sack.
Yeah, but that's because of the hype of like the previous Peoria. I think because of the hype of Peoria. Now Colorless Lugia is gonna be the most popular deck, or not the most popular deck, but has more hype behind it. I think going into Toronto a little bit more so than Lille, and I think it will be more popular in Toronto than it was in Lille. So I could see it though. Like I wouldn't be surprised. Like I think the things that are like changing from here for sure. Actually, to be honest, could Chi and Pao become the most popular deck?
I don't think that's really the case.
Will be 10 plus.
Well, I don't know. I mean, does Chi and Pao have like any outright terrible matchups here in this top 6? It doesn't, right? Like,
it's got some good ones.
I mean,
it's
honestly,
really good against Charizard. It's pretty good against Gardevoir as well.
All right, let's look at this. Okay,
right,
does
with it.
does Gardevoir in this top 6 have any outright bad matchups?
If they don't have Sinnoh, I think Lugia is unfavored. But besides that, no.
Does Charizard in this top 6 have any outright bad matchups?
Chi and Pao is really bad.
Lost Box, outright bad matchups. Lugia, right?
Lugia is bad. I think, dude, depending on the build of Lost Box as well, though, I think Chi and Pao might be favored against some of them for sure.
Miraidon outright bad matchups. Lost Box,
Charizard, Gardevoir, Lost Box. The fact that Miraidon is as popular as it is. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's a deck that can win.
Oh my gosh.
The Charizard matchup actually isn't that bad if you're playing the Path. Like if you're playing the Path build, it's probably 50-50 to be honest. It's probably I think you're probably 50-50 against the Miraidon. Path Miraidon is probably 50-50 up against Charizard. But Gardevoir's a bad. Also, I think all right, I'm not gonna lie. The biggest reason that Miraidon's having so much success is because you should be going second against Miraidon. For everyone out there, we got to put the Miraidons in their place, bro. If you're playing Gardevoir or Charizard,
no. Lugia, I thought.
No, if you're playing,
are you going second as Gardevoir into Miraidon?
If you set up, you win. If you're playing Gardevoir, Charizard, Lost Box, Lugia against Miraidon, go second. Actually, if you're playing Chi and Pao as well, you might want to go second. To be honest, I'm not sure about that. I would probably go second as Chi and Pao as well, because Miraidon's gonna get the turn 1 attack. They're either gonna go first and they're gonna attack turn 2, or they're going to go second and they're going to attack turn 1. So you want to have like that extra out to setting up yourself. You want that Iono, you want that research, you want that judge. I don't know what you're playing. You got the Arven in the Charizard deck. You need more basics in play. You don't want to go Pidgey, Charmander, pass, and then get turn 1 Raikou and just lose the game. Go second against Miraidon. With most decks, not all decks, but the ones I just listed, I would be choosing to go second against Miraidon with. Maybe some more testing with some of them would lead me to believe something else, but definitely Gardevoir and Lost Box. I'm 100% set on going second against Miraidon. I'm not trying to get a Ralts, 2 Ralts and pass. If I don't, especially because like if you have the Iono, you're more likely to be able to, even if you end up with only 2 Ralts and you go second, if you play a supporter for turn, you're more likely to be able to pull off the Mirage Step play, or put yourself in a more comfortable spot to Mirage Step. So I think it's one of the reasons that Miraidon has had more success than it probably should, is because people don't know to go second against it win quite a few decks. So, but I think Miraidon will still probably be 12%, maybe even higher, 13%. Because
Miraidon's not going down, I don't think. And that was the next one, right? Is what are Colorless Lugia's outright bad matchups. And the only one that's close is Miraidon. And I honestly think like it's probably not that bad of a matchup for Lugia. But like you said, people, you need to play the Radiant Charizard for sure. If you're not playing Radiant Charizard, you're definitely just losing. So like put the Radiant Charizard in your deck, because it's just good against other stuff anyway, right?
It's just it's the more efficient Snorlax at the end of the game. I've also come around on the Weird Ear as well. I think because of Mirror Match as well as the Miraidon matchup, you probably want the Weird Ear. Otherwise, it's hard to have an aggressive answer against Miraidon in the early turns to like get going and actually take prize cards sometimes, but Weird Ear does that for you. It's just 1 Chaos are active. So get the Weird Ear in there is probably correct. I've been like a non-Weird Ear for a while, but I think I'm coming around on it for sure.
So Chi and Pao does not take an outright bad matchup to any of these decks. Why is it not just Chi and Pao, man? Why is it not just Chi and Pao?
The deck's pretty good. We're me and my group were pretty close to playing it for Sacramento. We all liked it. It's a fun deck to play. It's actually one of my favorite decks to play right now as well. It's just a super fun deck to play. Shivery Chill's a broken ability. Greninja's got a broken ability. B-Barrel's got a broken ability. Baxcalibur's got a broken ability. So yeah, you got a lot of.
It's just a broken deck with a lot of broken cards in it, man. That sounds like a broken deck to play for a tournament.
Yeah, honestly, the Colorless Lugia matchup might be unfavorable. Because it is possible for Colorless Lugia to set the tempo, and it's very hard for Colorless Lugia to lose the tempo. Like if Colorless Lugia goes first and gets turn 2, like if you open a Chi and Pao and Colorless Lugia goes turn 2, Lugia, KO Chi and Pao, the game just like basically ends because they can just like chain Lugia, Charizard, and the game is just over. And they can also do a lot of stuff in the mid game where they're attacking with Snorlaxes and Boss KO and Excaliburs and stuff. So that might be unfavorable for Chimpao, to be honest.
So you know what you need is Chimpao to get back in it.
Spiritomb?
Kyogre.
Oh, Kyogre. Wait, which one? The one that snipes for 180?
Yeah, bro. You think we're putting freaking the 250 Kyogre in this deck?
Bro, someone was talking about a build where you play Pidgeot V and you load up all the energy on Pidgeot V and then you put it back in the deck.
That's actually so
and you
sick.
Go Kyogre
I'm so down, dude. I'm so down. We're locked for Toronto. Let's get it, dude. That's a broken strategy. And then you nest ball to get the Pidgeot out of the deck, so you're guaranteed. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Let's get it. Why are we end the podcast right now?
Shut it down. Shut it all down. You also could play do you play a V-Star power in that deck currently? No, right? So you can also play 4 Sealstone.
4 Sealstone, dude. The deck is insane now. Insane.
Increase your consistency by a little bit, you know? Who knows? Yeah. That could be like, that's like +3 cards though. And the deck is definitely riding the line on like consistency for sure. Like that's maybe Chiampao's biggest enemy is like kind of itself, to be honest. Like the consistency is like the big thing. So like this, that's why this build, like this has become the cookie cutter build, because it is the best build, because it's just the most consistent build, right? No gimmicks, no room for gimmicks really. 4 Nest Ball, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Battle VIP.
Well, Pass. Its whole strategy is a gimmick, right?
Well, depending on the matchup, sometimes you're not even using the Cologne cross switchers,
but then that's
against the right matchups.
So you do have cards that are a gimmick, right?
Yeah, there is some. I wouldn't call it a gimmick. It's like that's why you play 2 Canceling Cologne, right? Like it's a main strategy the deck can consistently execute like every single game, as long as you set up.
Listen.
All right.
Minus Iono, minus Heavy Ball, minus Cologne.
Oh, not the Heavy Ball. We need Greninja.
There's our 3 card combo. All right, minus Nest Ball.
Okay, we can maybe make that work. We get Pidgeot, 4 Sealstone,
Kyogre.
Yeah. All right.
Run it up, buddy.
It sounds broken to me, Chip. Let's do it. Wait, is 250 even enough without Sableye to accept a little damage? Miraidon would be good against Miraidon.
Yeah. Why are we doing this for matchups that were like already 50-50? Like, does it make him? I mean, I guess it does just like beat Miraidon.
Yeah, you would just beat Miraidon. You could be like a lot slower and then eventually make the comeback.
Dude, you should just play the other Kyogre, just a one of, and then because this whole conversation started because of freaking Lugia, and then you just like KO Lumineon, KO MUEX or something.
If we're looking at these top 6 though, then we were talking about like what are you unfavored? I think Chimpao is probably unfavored against Miraidon. With Path Judge build, if it's not the Path build, you're probably just fine. It's 50-50. But if it is the Path build with like a heavier Judge count, you probably are unfavorable. Path Judge is pretty hard for Chimpao. Just like Charizard struggled. Like Charizard does not want to see Path Judge on the other side of them. Same thing with Chimpao. Like you don't want to be getting Path Judge. You're trying to avoid that at all costs. A little bit better for Charizard than Chimpao because you don't have a 2 prize in your active as often, and you have a lot of extra 1 prizes you can kind of give up as sacrifices until you get to your Charizard. So, but yeah, I think Guardy Charizard losing some percentage, Lugia gaining some percentage. I think I could see Lost Box being at 13 again. I would predict it to go down a little bit though. But yeah, my prediction for Toronto from this top 6, I don't think we'll see a new 6th deck. I think Chimpao and Colorless Lugia go up in percentage. I don't know, 2 to 3 points each. And then Guardy and Charizard come down 2 to 3 points each. Guardy might take like a 4-point hit, to be honest.
Speaking of the predictions, let's make some. Lock them in. We got 3 predictions that we picked out for this week. I kind of liked the over-under Radiant Greninja last week, so we're going to do something similar here. Over-under for Spiritomb. Spiritomb Paldea evolved, and we're putting the line at 1.5. So Azul, over or under 1.5 Spiritomb in top 8 of the Toronto Regional Championships.
That's a tough one. There's been a lot of Spiritomb recently. There's been a lot. How much Spiritomb was there? Yeah, now I'm curious. Let's get some numbers real fast. How much Spiritomb was there in Lille top 8? There was 1. Was it just 1? There's 2. Fabian wasn't playing it, I don't think. And then there was only 1.
A lot. So there was 14 Lost Box decks in day 2, and they averaged 0.64 Spiritomb. So that's 64% of Spiritomb of Lost Box decks had Spiritomb in it.
There's other decks that could play Spiritomb as well.
Gardevoir.
Arceus decks sometimes play it because that's kind of their Mew win condition a lot of the times, or that can be their Mew win condition. I'm gonna go.
40% of Gardevoirs had it.
Really? Dude, what are these
Yeah.
Gardevoir players scared of, bro? There's no way.
63% of Tina's had it.
That Gardevoir number actually is like a pretty big surprise to me, to be honest. Yeah, that's kind of a shock. Because like the DT Mew build is a lot easier for Gardevoir to handle than the Fusion build. And then if you're really trying to get some percentage points against Lugia, Temple of Sinnoh exists.
All three Urshifus also had it, so like there's a decent amount of decks that just like pretty solidly play Spiritomb right now. Let's get it, Azul. Come on, the line's at 1.5.
I'm going under. I'm going under on the Spiritomb.
Ooh, I'm going over with it, baby. Come on now, run it up. Easy dubs for Chip once again.
All right, the deck that's been taking the hardest hits recently, Charizard. Where do you think the highest placing Charizard will be, Chip? It's been in the top 2 most popular decks the last 3 tournaments. 0 top 8s. Decent amount of top. Not that many even. Like what? Oh my gosh. There's 2 Charizards in the top 94 players at. Or what is this tournament? Lille.
Dude, there's.
One got 10.
Okay, yeah.
And then the next one is 94. That is.
No. That's a 49, buddy.
Oh, 49. My bad. Yeah, not 94. Yeah, 49. Yeah, that's like, dude.
Listen, bro.
What is happening with Charizard, bro? Is the deck just not good?
The deck is good.
Highest placing one.
It's good enough.
Sacramento was 23rd.
It's good enough for a top 8 finish. That's what I'm giving it.
Ooh, okay,
Charizard,
okay.
It's getting its in a top 8 finally. It's gotten top 8 or better in the other 2 regions, the other 2 major regions at this point.
Needs to get its before.
We're locking it in before the new format starts. I think Charizard's still good next format, right? I think it's probably the deck that loses or gains the least probably with the new set. With like the new cards coming out and stuff. So I would expect Charizard to still be decently played moving forward. But right now for this format, this is it. Top 8, locking it in.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, I was going to, I'll go with top 16 because it's like, I'm not going to pick the same thing you did.
Bro, you were just thrashing it. You were going to give it a top 8?
I don't think it's that bad. Like, I don't think the deck doesn't feel bad, but then its performances have been so bad. I feel like for how popular it's been. The performances, it's like, this might be the first time a deck, it feels like this might be the first time a deck has performed this poorly for how popular it's been. Is that a thing? Is that possible? This could be it? Is it Charizard? Probably not, but it's not that bad either. There's still some floating in the top 16s, but it feels pretty bad, to be honest. And then our final prediction, they've been killing it this season in general, especially for how many players they have, to be honest. Will Canada win Toronto Regionals? Will they win their first home regional? What do you think, Chip?
First of the season. I mean, I think a Canadian has won Toronto Regionals in the past. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what I meant. First, first home regional of the season. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, Canada, like you mentioned, has been absolutely killing it. Obviously, kind of started with Cyrus snowballing things at NAIC with getting that win. Andrew winning in Pittsburgh, and then Raymond winning in Peoria. All non-Canadian tournaments, North American still, but non-Canadian. So will a Canadian win their home regionals? And I'm saying no. We're taking it back, baby. Come on, let's get in there. America for the win.
I'm gonna play the numbers game here.
Dude,
and just
someone... Do you hear that?
What?
Dude, someone in the hall is chanting USA.
Wait, no, I don't. We can't hear it.
I've got the gain turned down too much, but yeah, go on.
After you said that,
your pick.
were they just chanting?
Yeah, after I said that.
I'm gonna go with. I'm just gonna play the numbers game in this one, like you do sometimes. I'm gonna go with Canada. If they're gonna get another dub this season, it's likely this one. If not, it's just probably more likely this one than the Vancouver one, because it isn't like something like. Now, see, I'm gonna sound stupid if that. There's a large percentage of the Canadian population, I believe, lives like in the Toronto area. A very large percentage of it does. So,
it's like 80%, I think.
Okay, well now I can't look.
Well, no, I think it's like 80% lives below a line across a horizontal line, and that includes Vancouver, right? It's like if you go up north, it's just the Canadian wilds.
Yeah. A lot of the vast majority of Canadians live like very close to the Canadian-American border, but I believe like there's actually like a pretty high percentage that's like on the East Coast side of things by Toronto area. So there's just going to be the most Canadians at a tournament probably all year. So Lock it in. Canadian getting the dub. Doesn't mean I can't get second place, but Canadians are going to get the dub.
And with all that out of the way, Toronto this weekend, we're both looking forward to it. Let's get into our next couple segments here, starting off by thanking our sponsor, Dragon Shield. Huge thanks, as always, to Dragon Shield for being a sponsor of the Uncommon Energy podcast. Dragon Shield makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop gaming products and accessories on the market, including, of course, sleeves, binders, deck boxes, and so much more. And this week, I get to talk about the sleeves that I'm bringing to a tournament because I'm playing and I'm just going with the classics, the Dragon Shield Black mats. Looking forward to cracking a fresh box, shuffling up for round one. Gonna be great.
Yep, I'll bring some tangerines myself. Yeah, I'm excited to be a Toronto with that. Yeah, shout out as always to Dragon Shield for sponsoring the podcast. Check them out as always at dragonshield.com/webshop/US or EU, depending where you're located. And of course, you can always find them everywhere else, local card shops, big box stores, you name it, they're there. Up next, guess that flavor text. Chip, hit him with it.
Yes, of course, it is time for Guess That Flavor Text, the recurring segment on our show where each week either Azul or I picks a card, reads the flavor text, and then the other host has to guess which Pokemon we are talking about on that card. There are some lifelines to help you out along the way. The lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and read an attack name. And it is my turn this week to pick a card for Azul. I don't know what the score is. I know I'm winning by a lot, though.
Not that
We'll see
much.
if Azul can.
It's about the same.
It's a lot.
For a
We'll
while.
see if Azul can pick it up this week. Azul, are you ready, bud?
I'm ready, Chip. Hit me with it.
Okay. By storing water in its body, this desert dweller can survive 30 days without water.
Okay, so I'm thinking it could be. Is that something that like Sandaconda does? That kind of like reminds me of Sandaconda because Sandaconda gets like pretty big. What is the Sandaconda's? Wait, does Sandaconda have a basic? It does. It's the. I don't remember what the Sandile. No, that's the crocodile, Crocorock, and the other one.
So, what is Sandaconda's name? Like, what are the two words there?
So sand and then a conda, like a what's the kind of snake called?
Bro.
What is it called?
An anaconda?
Oh, anaconda. So what then? So then is the
So,
the basic is
What's
like
its basic?
I don't know.
It's a cobra
Oh,
that is
a silly cobra.
silly.
Silly cobra. Yeah, silly cobra. Silly cobra.
It's just a silly little guy.
So I could see it being either of those. Go ahead, read it to me one more time.
By storing water in its body, this desert dweller can survive 30 days without water.
Yeah, so I could see it being silly cobra or Sandaconda. That kind of flavor text sounds like it could be an evolution. It could also be a basic though. Could be Trapinch.
Very astute observation.
Yeah, it could be Trapinch. That's the other desert Pokemon that just came to mind. So I'm gonna go with what set the card is from.
Okay, so this one is from Platinum.
Jeez. Okay, so it's not Sandaconda. It could be.
I'm impressed that you knew that to eliminate that right away.
It could be Trapinch. I don't know if there's a Trapinch in Platinum, but I don't know what was in Platinum. So we're just gonna have to go with some more flavor text here. I'm trying to think of other desert type Pokemon. What stage is the card?
It is a basic.
Okay, go ahead and read me the flavor text one more time.
By storing water in its body, this desert dweller can survive 30 days without water.
Dude, I'm still struggling on what the... Oh, give me an attack name now. We're just going all in. Uh-oh.
Shoot Needle.
Shoot Needle. Dude. So it's like... Desert Pokemon. Maybe some kind of like... Oh, wait. There's like... What is the... There's Sandshrew and then Sandslash. Sandslash just kind of has like a... I have no idea. I'm going to go with Sandslash.
Bro, it's a basic. You already used that lifeline.
I'm going to go with Sandshrew, sure.
Dude, I literally, before we started this, almost said, like, if you can't get this one, I just don't know how to help you. I just don't.
What is it?
It's Cacnea, dude.
Oh
Cacnea.
my gosh. Wait, that makes sense. Yeah. Um, yeah, shoot
From Platinum.
needle
Pull it
that.
up for them to see.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean this one. So it's like there's two attack names, and I thought about giving the first one is Sneaky Attack, but you were so lost. I was just like, it's right up. Yeah, that one right there.
Yeah.
You were so lost. I was like, I'm just gonna give him Shoot Needle to help him out as much as possible, and just nothing, man.
Yeah,
Nothing.
dude. I just need to like think a little bit more, man. I just need to like piece the things. I definitely could have got to the shoot needle. What has needles in the desert? Cactus. Oh, cacturn. Oh wait, it's the basic. What is its name? And then I would have been like, Chip, just give me the name. And then you'd have been like, it's Cacnea. I was like, it's Cacnea. I know the Pokemon, but I don't remember the name because I don't think I would have remembered. Maybe I would have though. I know Cacturn. I don't know if I would have remembered Cacnea though. But another L for me in this one. We'll see if Chip can grow his lead in the next. And let's take a look at some new cards. We got Paradox Rift not coming out. Wait, is it coming out next week? Dude, what is the day?
It releases not this weekend, but next weekend. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So not this week, but next week. It'll be live. It'll be available on PTCG Live on the 2nd, and then it fully releases on the 3rd, or officially releases. The products officially release on the 3rd. So we're gonna take a look, do our little bit, I guess, like mini set review. We're not gonna read every single card, but we're gonna take a look at all the EXs and then anything else we think is interesting. So I'll just start us off here with the Frostlass EX, 250 HP. Stage 1. It's a Terra Pokemon for terrible attribute, terrible game design. Although the Charizard definitely makes the Kyogre matchup a lot harder. The fact that it's a Terra Pokemon, I will mention that.
It's so terrible at this point.
Its ability: when this Pokemon is in the active spot and is knocked out, flip a coin. If heads, your opponent takes one less prize card for that knockout. And then it has the Frost Bullet for Water 140. This attack does 20 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So your 2-hit KO and stuff. You only got 250 HP. A lot of chance for you to get 1-hit KO'd. But the ability, get heads, only one prize card. Probably just kind of a cool meme deck, right?
Yeah, and you don't even knock out Charizard EX, which is weak to grass. So Frostlass,
That's not good.
You know, it's got like decent attributes. The ability is okay. Its attack is okay, but
it's not
I don't
know
enough. Nothing that's good enough for sure. We talked about the Simisage little like line a couple weeks ago, just kind of as like a cool card. The Simisage, what's it called? Simipour and Simisear.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way it works is like if you just have all three of them in play, you get to ignore the colorless attack costs this Pokemon uses, and they can pretty much all attack for 1 energy with 3 of them in play. A little bit of setup, but kind of a cool little fun deck. I think there'll definitely be a Little Dark Fury video on this deck, right? Which I'm looking forward to seeing, but
Luminous
I won't
Energy.
expect this to be super, competitive. Yeah, definitely Luminous Energy seems cool.
Got the Luminous in there. Moving right along. Up next, there's the Simisear, like Chip mentioned. Man, I'm scrolling for a while here. We got the Armarouge EX, 260 HP, stage 1 again. Ability: when this Pokemon is at full HP, it takes 80 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. We have talked about this one pretty recently. I mean, that's just a high stat. And we did kind of talk about this recently with, and this actually might just be why Charizard is decent. It's like, if the stats are high enough, nothing else really matters, right? I think we kind of see that with Charizard. The 330 HP is a lot. It can hit really hard
to the other things in the format, right?
Yeah. If the stats get high enough on a certain Pokemon compared to what everything else has, that's good enough. As long as you're not abysmal, like your attack doesn't cost like 6 energy to attack with or something. But yeah, so effectively you got 340 HP, and for them to break your ability, basically, they need to do 90 damage, which is like not an easy task to pull off for most decks unless you're attacking with your main attacker to begin with, right? And then the attack is for 2 colorless energy, 40 plus 40 more damage for each fire energy attached to this Pokemon. But we got the other Armarouge. We got, what's the stadium called
Magma
again?
Basin.
Magma Basin. You know, there's tools for the Armarouge EX. I'm excited for the Armarouge EX personally. It is weak to water. Iron Hand's probably best partner is the Baxcalibur, which means you got the Chi and Pow, so that's not great for it. But besides that, I don't know. That's just like this ability is just like ridiculously strong. It's like a broken ability. Not a broken. It's a pretty good ability.
Yeah, and there's does the tool card increase your HP by 40, or does it
Reduce
decrease the damage you take
by 30? Oh, I didn't even think about that. Minus 110 on that first hit.
Can that be attached to EXs though? I actually don't
Yeah.
even remember. Is that in this set or is that in 151?
You can put it on stage ones. You can put it on stage ones. Has to be attached to a stage
Oh,
one.
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
What is?
Armor Rouge, I'm a big fan. That ability is powerful for sure.
Yeah, it seems cool. I wasn't super hype on it. Yeah, so it's Rigid Band in 151. The stage 1 Pokemon this card is attached to takes 30 less damage from attack. So yeah, minus 110 straight up. Cramorant hitting for 0, buddy. 0.
That's right. That's a big old 0 from the Cram. We'll take a look at all the future and ancient Pokemon, I guess, as well. We got the Iron Moth up next. 130 HP. It is a future Pokemon. Ability, once during your turn, when this Pokemon moves from your bench to your active spot, you move any amount of fire energy from your other Pokemon to it, and then Heat Ray for fire colors. You do 120. Can't use Heat Ray during your next turn. Maybe it's a decent one-prize attacker. I don't know, in a fire deck.
Probably not. Yeah, I mean, I think the best use for this card is going to be, like, if they're... Yeah, I mean, I guess it could work just as a one-prize attacker, but it's like, even doing 120 is not that good necessarily. Like, it doesn't KO a Radiant Greninja, right?
Yeah.
So... I feel like the best use is like if there's something at some point that you just want a bunch of energy on something. You could do something like, you could do something where you move all the energy to it. Okay. I mean, this is kind of a crazy combo to try to set up. You move all the energy to the Iron Moth by getting it to the active off of something like your Armor Rouge.
Okay.
So all your energy are on your basic Iron Moth. You then sterile to heal your thing, to heal your Armor Rouge, put it back up to full. You move it to the bench and then use the other Armor Rouge to move all the energy back up to the Armor Rouge EX.
Okay, that's something. You're cooking, Chip. You're cooking. Or
that is
we could just
a very well done steak right there.
We could just retreat from Armor Rouge to Armor Rouge, move all the energy to the new Armor Rouge, and then play Cheryl to heal our other Armor Rouge. Now, we don't
no, dude, they stabilize. They put 10 on your Armor Rouge. You can't do that. They put 10 on your Armor Rouge.
They put 10 on your. They True, I forgot about the 10 on the Armor Rouge. With that in mind, gotta play the Iron Moth as a one of. You need it. Go get it.
Oops.
In terms of cool meme decks, the Kingdra I thought actually has a pretty cool attack. 150 HP, stage 2, of course. World Tie. For 1 water energy, reveal the top 6 cards of your deck. This attack does 60 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each energy card you find there. Discard those energy, shuffle the other cards back into the deck. So theoretically, you could be sniping for 360 damage, which, I don't know, that's a lot of damage.
Dude, if they give us Kyogre as a basic, like, why is this card on a stage 2, man?
True. Kyogre takes 3 energy to attack with. This only takes 1 chip.
Yeah, fair.
All right, we'll keep scooting along.
We got the Garchomp EX here. This one I tweeted about this card today. Because I mean, it's just got a lot of like good things going for it, right? High amount of HP. It's got free retreat, which is super sick. And its attack for 1 fighting, Hydro Lander, 160 damage. Attach up to 3 fighting energy from your discard pile to your benched Pokemon in any way that you like. And then Sonic Dive, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. It does 120 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Yeah, I mean, there's just like kind of a lot of cool stuff going on for this card, but as so many people in my tweet today were so quick to point out, like, I didn't know this. That thing's weak to lightning. You can't play that because it's weak to lightning. My gosh, I know, people. It's weak to lightning. Okay, I get it.
Iron Hands doesn't even one-hit KO it. Iron Hands doesn't even one-hit KO the Garchomp.
Well, Iron Hand's first attack one-hit KOs the Garchomp.
Oh, wait, what does that do?
Lightning, colorless 160. That's it.
No deck plays ways to get 2 lightning on Iron Hands, bro. No one's doing that.
Yeah, Miraidon? Well, I guess everything else in the Miraidon deck knocks you out. So.
Well, they can also knock you out with Iron Hands on top of everything else.
I mean, there's been some lists coming out that I've seen where people are playing the Lucario from Brilliant Stars. I've always thought that card was kind of cool. Obviously has not been super good up to this point, but there's some synergy there, I feel like.
Well, yeah, its stats
a one-prizer that can like one-hit KO just about anything as well. The Lucario is so. Yeah, I don't know. There's some cool stuff potentially going on there. Probably not going to be competitive though.
Yeah, I think what it's missing is its second attack isn't bad, but it's not powerful, right? It's a little bit niche, a little bit situational. But if it had like a really powerful second attack, then I think there was like a lot more validity to the Garchomp. But because of the lack of a powerful second attack, I think that's what kind of limits it. You have to play it with something else. But if it had a really good first attack, like it does, which is its first attack is insane, and you had a really good second attack, then we're like, oh, okay, we have it all in one. But now you got to be like, okay, this isn't enough by itself. Am I playing like a Cheryl loop deck? Do I play the Lucario? Do I have to build up a second attacker? And it seems like building up a second attacker is probably going to be the way to go with it. But it's also weak to lightning, so it's bad. We move on.
I actually want to talk about the Mantike real quick. Kind of a cool, I don't know. I mean,
maybe Pokemon are cool.
I could just see this in there if there was ever some sort of like tank and heal type deck where you just had a big guy that needed to take a hit. You just get it to the bench, retreat into the Mantike, and get that free attack. Heal 120 damage from one of your bench Pokemon. You would give up a prize to do it. Obviously, it's only got 30 hit points. But I could see this card popping up at some point. I don't think it's great by any means, but it's one I would like keep in mind that it exists.
The missing piece for Heatran VMAX was the Mantike the whole time.
The whole time. It's right there in front of us. We just didn't see it.
We're so close. I'm not going to talk about the Vanilla, so I'm not going to give it the benefit or the time of day. Serena EX, though, 310, Stage 2, Terra Pokemon for a Grass Energy. Put damage counters on one of your opponents, but one tilt's remaining HP is 30. So that's like an effective, pretty hard hit, right? Basically giving it 30 HP left. And then for Grass, 180, heal 30 damage from this Pokemon, and this Pokemon recovers from all special conditions. So the first attack's pretty good. I don't know what you're comboing it with. Maybe you get Alakazam, Radiant Alakazam involved, could get Hawlucha involved, could get Yoga Loop involved. You know, there's some things that could get involved with that Icicle to definitely have a pretty powerful deck potentially, for sure. Candy out your Serena turn 2 and put their 2 prize Pokemon at 30 HP remaining is not bad. Especially if you're going to like Yoga Loop it or something later on.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find it. When I tweeted earlier today about the Garchomp, like I mentioned, someone replied and was like, why would I, Irida for the Garchomp, which by the way, we didn't even mention. That's kind of cool that you can do, right? You go Irida for the rare candy plus the stage 2. Why would I do all that work for something that's weak to lightning when I could do the same thing for a Serena that's weak to metal and basically one hit KOs everything? And then I found the tweet. He said, with Brute Bonnet and Radiant Sneasler, practically auto KOs anything for 1 energy. So Radiant Sneasler boosting the poison damage something can take.
Yeah.
And then I think Brute Bonnet, when it comes into play, poisons your opponent's active. Is that right?
I think it's once on your turn if it has a memory capsule.
Okay. Hold up. 1 hit KO anything for 1. Okay, that's actually kind of sick, Azul.
1 grass? That's not bad. Yeah, there could be something there. There definitely could be something there.
The Brute Bonnet just does it every turn? Is that right?
Yeah. Well, if you have the memory capsule, you're cooking.
Oh, okay. So that's kind of the missing piece here. But I mean, you play like an Arvin build or something, right? Like
you get Arvin in there as well.
Go search that tool out. Yeah.
Play 4 of them,
I don't know. That actually seems like not bad.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, there's definitely a lot to try out. And then one of the cool things right now is that Japan did just get the cards. Wait, they get the cards this week or did they get them last week? I think they got them last week.
They get them this week, I think.
Oh, okay. So yeah, like we don't even know, like we don't have any data on this set yet. Usually Japan figures some stuff out ahead of time. We're like, okay, these cards seem to suck. There's no results from Japan. Okay, these things are winning in Japan. But now we don't have any of that to work off. So who knows? This could be really good. Usually we can write off some of these EXs ahead of time because we just see like the results from Japan. It's like, oh, it's doing nothing in Japan. But we don't have that to work with right now. So who knows how good these things could actually be potentially.
Yeah, in that reply, so the guy who replied was like, why would I Irida for the rare candy Garchomp when I could do this, and this, and this, and do my Radiant Serena play? And someone just replied, because that's a 6-card combo. Facts.
True. So we're going to skip Golisopod EX. We are going to move right on to the Iron Bundle, 100 HP Future Mon. Ability, once during your turn, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to their bench. Your opponent chooses the new active, and then you discard this Pokemon and all cards attached. Water Colors causes 80 damage if the defending Pokemon is an evolution Pokemon. It can't attack during your opponent's next turn. So it's really here for the ability more so than anything, right? And we've seen cards like this.
Attack is like really close to being good, but it's not good because the effect is like if the effect was on the Iron Bundle. Yeah, it would be pretty good. And honestly, like that would make this card pretty solid, to be honest, if that effect was like on the Iron Bundle.
Yeah, and Iron Bundle would be hit by evolutions. Yeah, it would be good.
Yeah. But as it stands, like the ability is kind of cool. You were about to say, I think that we've had this something similar in the past. The Fiona,
and it would just the Fiona was better because it would go to the bottom of your deck, so you could use it multiple times, even in the same turn, right? But Iron Bundle is still like it'll see play at some point for sure. It's not going to be like a card as a one of in every top deck, but it'll see play for sure as a inclusion in some decks in the future.
We got the Mewtwo EX here. This one doesn't seem crazy good. Trans Charge for a Psychic. Attach up to 2 basic energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way that you like. And then for 2 Psychic, Photon Kinesis, 10+. This attack does 30 damage for each Psychic energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So like that attack is pretty good.
Yeah.
But the thing that it would be like kind of cool to play this with would be something like Gardevoir EX, where you just throw a bunch of Psychic energy into play at once, right? But the problem is Mewtwo EX is not a Psychic type, like somehow, right? With the Terra typing and stuff. So you can't attach 2 energy to it.
We're getting to the Xatu though in a little bit here.
Dude, that card is not good. It is not good.
No, it's definitely a good card. How good would it be in them? That's a good card. Attach an energy, draw 2 cards.
Okay, sure. But you have like cards. Okay.
Iron Hands knocked it out for 2 prize cards.
There's two ways to view pretty much any card, right? And I guess like I do both of these things, right?
You're like, is it as good as Mega Ray or is it worse than Mega Ray? And if it's as
no, you just look at a card and like consider it in the context of like
in general.
Like in the history of the game, this type of effect has like traditionally been very good. Getting extra energy cards into play, drawing cards. 2 pretty good things. Xatu does both of them for one thing. Obviously, that ability is powerful, but you consider things in the context of the format as a whole.
You still have Fall
like,
Crystal.
and you really do have to. I've gone back and forth on how like I feel about evaluating cards in this aspect. You pretty much can only evaluate them in the context of the cards that are available in the format at the moment. You can also consider like in the future this could be good, kind of like maybe what I was saying with the Mantike earlier, right? Like this is something that could come up, but you like a card can only ever be as good as the cards that it's able to be played with and the cards that it will be played against. And we have Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX in the format right now, which is the same thing as Xatu on a high HP Pokemon that does a ton of damage. It is weak to Dark as a 3-prizer, which is bad, but even before Charizard came out, the card was just not played. It has not been good in 2 years that the card has been in the format. I just don't see it for Xatu. If Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX couldn't survive, like I just can't see setting up some other stage 1 to accelerate. Oh, like what are we even accelerating to? Just Mewtwo? Is it just a Mewtwo Xatu deck? Is that what we got, Azul?
Well, it's got to be something else. But yeah, I think maybe lack of psychic attackers is what would be holding Xatu back, to be honest. I do agree. If there's something holding it back, it probably is that. But we'll see. I mean, Mewtwo could be the closer in the deck. You play 1 Mewtwo as a closer maybe, but Xatu's cool. Yeah, it might not be as good as I would hope it is, but we mentioned the Elekid real fast, 30 HP, but then for 0 energy, 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if we get into a baby war format, people are playing Cleffa a lot. Especially once rotation hits and we like lose the Mew and stuff, I think Cleffa will become more popular for sure.
Hey, Serena put him down to 30.
And then Elekid.
That's a combo.
Hey, that's a combo.
I guess if we're talking about all the baby Pokemon, we can just real quick scroll back up to the Magby.
You don't have to. No one wants.
Okay.
No one likes Magby.
I haven't even read this one yet. I don't feel like during your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon is damaged by an attack, even if it's knocked out, put 16. Okay, sorry, we read that. Let's scroll back down.
I apologize. It goes to the
apologies.
Tapu Koko EX 210 Lightning Colorless 30. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack during your opponent's last turn, this attack does 90 more damage, and your opponent's active is now paralyzed. 120, they're paralyzed for Lightning Colorless. Maybe you played a Miraidon for like a 2-hit KO.
I've always said this. Any card that has an effect that can auto paralyze your opponent is always worth remembering and considering, because paralysis is the strongest status condition in the game
by far.
Easily by far. Like you get to buy a turn if your opponent doesn't have some way to move that Pokemon from the active to the bench.
The Brupanet believers will want you to think different, but paralysis is definitely better.
Yes. So anytime a card can auto paralyze, it's worth at least keeping in mind. This is like a more specific situation, right? Something has to have been KO'd. If this card had free retreat, I think it would be super good in Miraidon. As it stands, I don't feel like I would be able to justify playing it in Miraidon.
It would have to be like matchup. It'd be very meta matchup specific. It'd be like, oh, in this matchup, they always create a big Pokemon. I'm ahead,
sure.
but at that point, I start to lose. If I had something to just paralyze them for a turn, I could make a comeback, for sure. So like specifically maybe up against Charizard, right? Maybe it is like I'm ahead,
Ooh.
but I can't get over Charizard. But if I could trap it for a turn, they only play like one switch card. So you go Coco, Iono Judge, Path, and then you swing.
What about this in like a Lost Box deck of some sort?
Yeah. There we go again. Lightning Energy, Colorless Energy, paralyze something, lock it down for a turn. So yeah,
By a turn.
Keeping it in mind.
The damage being in play is just useful for your deck as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Never know. Now we get to everyone's favorite card from the new set, the Iron Hands EX. 230 basic Pokemon. Go ahead. You got.
Yeah, I guess we should say what it does.
Yeah.
I was just gonna hop right into it, but yeah, go ahead.
230 basic Pokemon, future Pokemon. Lightning, colorless, 160, and then for lightning, colorless, it does 120 damage, but if it knocks out your opponent's active Pokemon, you take an additional prize card. So a lot of people are scared of this card. Jake Gearhart in particular is terrified of Iron Hands. What do you think, Chip? Is Iron Hands all it's cracked up to be?
Only time will tell, truly. My prediction for this card is that it's going to be a good card, but it is not going to gatekeep decks from the format. That's my prediction.
What do you think about, to kind of put it in comparison, what do you think about formats like pre-rotation Lugia and Palkia and even before that Mew, where they were like 30% of the meta? Do you think those were like overall pretty unenjoyable formats, I guess I would say, like in comparison?
They were, but I just don't see how an Iron Hands deck becomes that high a percent of the meta. Now, maybe cumulatively, if we're seeing Iron Hands, Miraidon, Iron Hands, Chien-Pao, Iron Hands, Lost Box, maybe.
Everywhere.
And maybe that's the issue with this deck, is that maybe if it was like lightning, colorless,
yep,
people wouldn't think too much of this card, right?
Combo with Tapu Koko EX too. You can lock them up with the Koko. Get them with the hands. Just saying. Yeah,
I mean, you already have 230 HP, so it's like hard for most things to KO as well. Like I was thinking about this too. The math just kind of lines up. 160 plus 120, that's 280 against random stuff like Arceus, right? You just hit them for 160, they can't KO you, and then you take 3 prizes on the amp you very much turn, right? Obviously, like that only works with a deck that can afford to do that. It would be a Lost Box or a Miraidon. Won't work with the Chien-Pao, and it does seem like the Chien-Pao deck at the moment, at least, is the way to go with this card for now.
I hope that it does. I think overall it'd probably be best if only one deck can really play hands successfully. I'm sure there'll be other ways that people try and make it work.
Yeah.
But people are talking about putting it like in Charizard and stuff, and I'm like,
that's too much.
Use your whole Charizard ability to put 3 fires on a hands, and then somehow attach a lightning for turn, and then they're gonna knock it out back.
Luminous.
Ooh, that luminous though.
Yeah, that way you can Luminion your Luminion back into the deck.
Oh, okay. Now you're kind of cooking, Chip.
You got options.
Hey, actually, that does sound kind of sick, though. To be honest, that is pretty sick. Actually, you maybe did something right there. Pidgeot gets a Luminous, Charizard to the Luminion, put him back in the deck.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go. Or to the Iron Hands.
Or to the Iron Hands. We can do it all. We can't arm press though.
We'll see.
You can't put 2 Luminous on it, but
we'll see what happens with this one.
I do
think things like Lost Box will probably have to. I mean, similarly to Stoutland, right? Whenever Lugia was playing Stoutland, pre-rotation with powerful colorless energy, Lost Box could beat Lugia, but you just had to respond to Stoutland. Like if you did not KO the Stoutland, you just lost the game. So Lost Boxes are probably pretty similarly going to have a way to respond to Iron Hands EX.
Yeah, you're going to have a way to respond to it. Yeah, hopefully it just doesn't become one of those metas where like the best Iron Hands deck isn't like 30% of the meta, because then it'll be pretty unenjoyable. I hope it's just Iron Hands is solid, like you said, and then it's like there's one best Iron Hands deck, and that is maybe like a tier 1 deck, and that's like fine. Like, it's like another 15%er deck, plenty of other decks are fine around it, and it doesn't completely stomp the format. But it is a little bit scary. Like, I mean, you play that in a Chi and Pow deck, you go up against like a 2-prize deck, you're like, okay, turn 1 Iron or turn 2 Iron Hands, knock out a 1-prizer. And they're like, okay, knock out your Iron Hands with my 2-prizer. And they're like, okay, attack with Chi and Pow, draw 2 prize cards. And they're like, use a 2-prizer. You're like, okay, Chi and Pow for 2 more prize cards. I always win, right? That's where it gets like a little, maybe it is going to be too good, but we'll have to wait and see for sure. Hopefully it's not. I think most of us don't want Iron Hands to be too good though. But one thing we do all want to be really good, the Zatu, 100 HP, ability, once in your turn you may attach a basic psychic energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, draw 2 cards. Energy acceleration plus draw engine in the same card. Why would you play anything besides a Zatu deck at this point? Now, Zatu's pretty cool. Chip's probably right. It probably won't be too great. There's just not that many good attackers with it. Even these new... Oh, wait. I didn't know about this one. Did you know about this one?
Yeah.
That's not bad. 180 for 3? That's damage.
Yeah, I mean, that is damage, but...
Technically damage.
Dies to Iron Hands right
All
away, right?
Terrible deck. We move on. Zatu is not playable. The Cofagrigus EX, though, 260
One
HP.
thing I do want to mention, though,
go ahead.
Is like something that's kind of cool is that a lot of these cards we didn't know about until this weekend. Like the Latios I didn't know about this Latios until I was opening up the Paradox Rift cards that Pokemon sent to me, right?
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
That has like never happened. Like,
because usually Japan gets it like a month or more before us, like everything. But
exactly.
They haven't opened up. Wait, did they get it? They're getting it this weekend, right? Yeah, they haven't opened up cards
this
yet.
weekend.
They're opening up cards this weekend.
Like I saw Twan tweeting translations for the Latios like this past weekend after these cards were getting revealed, and the same thing goes for this Cofagrigus EX. I think this one did get leaked a little early for some people who got product a little early. I remember seeing this one on Twitter, but if you weren't paying attention to those things and you're like only paying attention to the official channels, this card did not get revealed until pre-release weekend, which is so dope.
You know what? Actually, and I've mentioned this before. This is setting up for the potential. They do this in Hearthstone. I think they do it in Magic, where content creators actually are the people to reveal cards on their YouTube videos and their live streams and stuff like that, which is like a pretty cool interaction between content creators and the product or the game that they play so much with. So that'd be cool to see. I mean, imagine you go to an Andrew Mahone stream and he's like, today on the stream I'm revealing 3 new cards from Paradox Rift, right? Like that'd be pretty sick. So who knows? We're getting to that point where that is possible because we're getting pretty lined up with Japan. Although I did hear people basically panicking. It was funny, like right after we released the episode last week or the week before, where we talked about, hey, it's pretty cool that we're getting so close to getting our set releases a week apart. That's pretty sick from Japan. That there is going to be a set release in January. We're getting a special set in January, which like theoretically should push back our main set release to like March, which means then we're going to be desynced with Japan again going into next year. I don't know how much validity there is to that, and hopefully that's not true, but
who knows, man? Who knows? I mean, 151 is an example of like how things are just funky still, but
but it would be cool to see that for sure. Like to see I think maybe some Japanese content creators already do that. I'm actually not sure, but it'd be cool to see some of the cards get revealed in English for the first time.
I think before that happens, like Pokemon would have to like be able to do some of that, maybe like on their official channels, like TPCI.
Yeah, they should do that too. Yeah,
does not officially reveal cards.
Not yet, but they should just get doing it, or at least give it to the content creators to do.
They officially reveal English versions of cards
after the Japanese version has already been revealed.
Exactly.
But hey, we can do both. Both can happen. It's best for the game. It's something that would be best for the game, right? It would be something that would be best for the game. But yeah, back to Cofagrigus, 260, stage 1, ability. If this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, search your deck for a card and put it into your hand. And then for 2 psychic energy, 110, put 50 damage on your opponent's bench Pokemon in any way you like. This is a pretty familiar card. This looks like Dragapult to me.
It does look like Dragapult. I thought you were going to say it looks like Frostlass, bro.
No, it looks like Dragapult VMAX to me.
Yeah,
although
I know.
It's not far from the Frostlass. But you know what? To be honest, a card like this does need some form of energy acceleration properly, because to chain your Cofagrigus might be pretty tough because it takes 2 psychic energy, and draw power is always good in your deck. And that's right, Zatu combos perfectly with the Cofagrigus EX. Make sure you try out this combo when Paradox release. Cofagrigus, it would be very funny though if this card ends up being, it doesn't seem that good, but if it ends up being good, and like no one thought Dragapult was good either, right? And then Dragapult VMAX ended up being pretty good overall. So it'd be very funny if Dragapult, or this ends up being a good card, just kind of like Dragapult was.
Yeah, dude, that hammer Dragapult deck was my. I loved that deck. That's like what I played all through the Players Cup 1 qualifiers. I played the Meowth and would choose to go second with the deck. So I just like Stellar Wish, Jirachi, get my board set up, and then just go Meowth. Boom.
Oh
Hit
yeah.
him for 70. Just damage in play. It was so sick.
Boom. Hit him for 70. Keep moving along here. Keep going. We've got the Scream Tail, 90 HP. Slap for a Psychic Energy. Not too threatening, but its second attack when comboed with Guardy EX could be. For Psychic Colorless is 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Now, how good will these kind of Pokemon be? How good will Guardy be with Iron Hands? Who knows? But like once rotation hits, Guardy kind of has limited attacking options because Shiny Arcana rotates, but the Drifblim Bravery Charm, the combo that everyone hyped up and was terrible in the current build of Gardevoir because it's just not that good overall currently because we have better options. Screamtail Bravery Charm plus Drifloon Bravery Charm could become the new way you play Gardevoir once rotation hits.
Yeah, because like Drifloon Bravery Charm is just like it's like one thing. It's like you're playing a lot for just one thing that you can do. But
you already do that with Shiny
Bravery
Arcana.
Charms work on the Bravery Charms work on your Drifloons, Bravery Charms work on your Screamtail. It's like you get more value and depending on what you're playing against. So even without the Bravery Charm though, like I think this card is good. You put yourself to 80 damage, 4 energies on yourself. You're doing 160 snipe. That KOs Baxcalibur, that KOs Squawkabilly EX. It cleans up knockouts on things that have a lot of HP that you maybe hit, like an Arceus or something like that. Usually you're one-hit KOing Arceus, I guess, but...
I feel like currently what you'd be doing with this, Cresselia already does. I feel like that 160 number is just like a little bit too short from being relevant in most situations. Most of the time you're like, okay, I want to turn to kill a Pidgey, or a Charmander, or a Comfey, like Candy Guardy, and Cresselia already does all those things, and also gets around Manaphy. I feel like for Screamtail to see success, you also need to combo it with that Bravery Charm.
How much HP does a Alolan Vulpix V have?
190.
I think it's 190, yeah.
Although, if you did play
I'm fighting for Screamtail here.
Yeah, I think this is like a card that will be good once you are kind of forced to include Bravery Charm with the Drifloon. Then you get the Screamtail in there, because then I think it becomes a little bit more powerful, or that makes it powerful enough. One card we actually didn't get in this set that would have comboed really well with this. Oh, no, wouldn't have comboed with it, dude.
It doesn't work. Nope.
Doesn't work. Let's keep moving on. Up next, we got the Gimme Ghouls, but they're not relevant yet because the only one that's relevant is the evolution. So let's take a look at this Iron Valiant EX. Iron Valiant 220. The ability, once on your turn when this Pokemon moves from your bench to the active spot, you may put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. We can only do it once. We can do it once for each Iron Valiant. So you can go second, hit him with 3 abilities on a Charmander, and then go attach to Medicham with a double turbo and Yoga Loop the Charmander, and then go again. And then you can't loop the Medicham, but yeah, this actually seems kind of scary for evolution decks, to be honest.
Yeah, I think this card is cool in like a Lost Box deck, right? Where you can play with that damage a little bit based on what you do with Sableye. It also can just become your big hitter, right? It does 220 effectively if you just stack the 20 on the active so you can KO. You can be aggressive in the right time, like KO Arceus V, KO Lugia V, whatever your opponent might have, right? And just at minimum does a lot of damage. And even if you're not attacking with it, you can get that little bit of extra damage in play, which is pretty cool. I can see like some Kyogre deck where you don't have to worry about playing Lightning Energy and the Dragonite and Raikou, and it's like, all right, we're streamlined into just Waters and Psychics. We've got the Greninja, we've got the Iron Valiant and Sableye, and we're just going from there. Something like that seems cool. I think this card seems really solid. You had mentioned like some sort of Donk deck or something at some point. That could exist, right? Probably just a fun ladder meme, right? I have a hard time thinking of any competitive deck where you like actively are wanting to put 4 Iron Valiant in your deck, right? But
I mean, if it gets the knockouts, we're cooking.
With
Medicham, this thing going second with this thing with Medicham is kind of scary. Like,
okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, like I don't know. You'd have to have another attacker. What would be the other attacker in the deck? That's what I can't come up with.
It's like, okay, I Yoga Loop, I take a prize, and I get to go again and do nothing.
Yeah, that's the way it kind of like seems to come together, to be honest. Like, I don't know what you do after you do that. Like, what is the
oh no, dude, I'm not saying it. Never mind. Let's move on. Okay, I'll say it. You power up, you get the extra turn, so you go second, you do your logo loop thing, okay? and that gives you a turn to evolve your Natus into Zatus, and then you use the psychic energies. You power up the Iron Valiant. Boom, Laser Blade for 200.
Genius, Chip. Genius. Absolutely genius. We can skip the Hoopa. To be honest, we can skip the Hoopa. Toxtricity EX. I haven't read this one yet personally, so let's get into that. This one. Terra Pokemon. Lightning. 70 damage. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck, and then Lightning. 270. Discard 3 Lightning from your Pokemon in play. So it doesn't have to be off itself. 270, decent amount of damage. That's pretty costly though. That's not KOing any stage 2 EXs. Not even KOing any V stars.
That's a lot of damage on a card. Seeing that 270 written there, but yeah, it's crazy. It's like so much damage. It's just not getting there.
Not gonna happen.
It does give you a fighting type attacker in like a Miraidon deck if you wanted it. Yeah, but I don't know.
Oh, I kind of want to mention this one. How do you say this?
Garganackle. Yes.
Energy Rock Salt, or the ability, once on your turn, you may attach a basic fighting energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. If you do, heal 30 damage from that. Some kind of heal tank deck. It is a stage 2.
Broken in GLC, dude.
Don't need to read Slitherwing. There is going to be more ancient and future Pokemon.
No. You're skipping something, brother. Have you read this card?
Yeah, Cloth.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, this is the one with for 2 colorless energy. 30 damage.
That's a lot of damage.
30 damage plus 160 more if this Pokemon is affected by a special condition. So 190 if you're affected by a special condition, which you do poison yourself with Brute Bonnet, right?
I think so. And there's also that spicy seasoned curry.
Oh, is that why someone
that
tweeted?
Item card?
I saw someone tweet a picture of 4 spicy seasoned curry the other day. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's because of the cloth.
There you go.
Yeah, but it also has 120 HP. Dies to Iron Hands, dead deck on arrival. Not good. We move on. Iron Hands trades evenly with Clawful. Like it's just a 2 for 2.
But you're calling him Clawful? Dang,
oh, yeah, dude. That's like that's just what it is. Clawful. It's not even Cloth. We are getting more ancient and future Pokemon though, or is this the only set with them? Do we know? I guess we don't know, right? We'll probably get another set.
We don't know yet. We probably will. Yeah. Rapid Strike and Single Strike didn't last for just one set, and there are more Paradox Pokemon that have not been given ancient and future cards. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Well, the next set should have Ace Specs as well, right?
Yes.
All right, pretty cool.
In theory, yeah. We don't know though.
Cool stuff coming up for the Pokemon TCG. All right, Sandy Shocks 220. This card feels almost good. Fighting colorless for 200. Yeah. Can't attack during your next turn, and then the ability you can only use it if your opponent has 4 or fewer prize cards remaining. Attach a fighting energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. 220 hits for 200. There's a couple other ancient cards that make this thing a little bit better, but it just feels like its stats are lacking a little bit in the damage and HP department.
Yeah, this ability is kind of cool. Gets good as the game goes on, right? But the fact that it's not useful at all early makes it tough. I could see this being played in something, but it's not its own deck for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to mention this Crobat because I played a really, really cool Raticate Crobat deck recently, kind of like a checkmate type deck. I want to revisit that deck. And here's another Crobat that you can play in that deck. Anyone who knows the deck that I'm talking about that I put on YouTube a little while ago knows what I'm talking about. This Crobat for 2 colorless energy, Mad Echo. You do 50 damage. Choose item cards or supporter cards during your opponent's next turn that can't play any of that trainer card from their hand. And the deck already plays the other the Raticate that puts your opponent's HP down to 10. So theoretically, you can put him down to 10 HP, then Mad Echo KO. I don't know. Put another Crobat in the deck. There's already 2 other Crobats in the deck. I don't know. It's cool. It's a cool attack. It's on a stage 2, but if you're playing it in the Crobat deck, it works. We already got Crobats in there. Scooting along. Down to these ones have abilities, so I want to stop and read them, but I don't think.
I don't think any of them are super good. We can talk about the Brute Bonnet next. Yep.
Go ahead, Chip. Hit him with it.
Yeah, so it's a basic Dark type ancient Pokemon, 120 HP. The ability Toxic Powder. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon has Ancient Booster Energy Capsule attached, you may make both active Pokemon poison. So it does poison you and your opponent. So got to get in there with the cloth. And then its attack, Rampaging Hammer, dark colorless, 120 during your next turn. This Pokemon can't attack. Probably not using it for this attack ever. This ability, though, is pretty good. There have been Pokemon in the past that have auto-poisoned your opponent's active if various conditions are met, right? There's the Ariados that was okay in some decks in Ancient Origins, I think. And then all the way back to the Skuntank G that was played a little bit back in 2009. That card was pretty decent. Yeah, Brute Bonnet seems solid, honestly.
Yeah. And it would probably be broken, but they did give it 120 HP, so Iron Hands knocks it out. Terrible card. Put it in the trash. No.
Oh my gosh.
No, the poison part is pretty cool, and people already come in with combos with it, right? There's already some combos out there that exist for it. So there might be some potential for the Brute for sure. There might be some potential. Probably the second most hyped EX in the set, Roaring Moon, right? I think this is going to be the second most hyped one. 230 HP.
Yeah.
Basic.
I'm really excited for this one for sure.
Frenzied Gouging, which is that's a pretty violent attack name though. I feel like we usually don't see them. I feel like sometimes
this thing's brutal, man.
Yeah, sometimes you read the translation of the Japanese attack names or ability names. You're like, geez, that's kind of harsh. And they usually don't make their way to English translations, but this one did, or similar enough probably. For Dark Colorless, you knock out your opponent's active Pokemon, and then you take 200 damage to yourself. So you don't get quite KO yourself. You have 30 HP remaining, but that's not very much to work with. And then Calamity Storm, 100 plus 120 more damage if you discard a Stadium in play. So 220, pretty big number to hit. You're hitting that. You're knocking out anything with the Frenzied Gouging. So theoretically, and especially with another card that we're going to be talking about here in a second, which is a supporter card that accelerates energy, plus you have Dark Patch, you can set these things up pretty aggressively turn 1, turn 2, no problem. So it is kind of just like a beat stick type deck. You're just KOing the active over and over and over again. But the reason that this deck will probably come short to an Iron Hands type deck is because if you're playing something like Iron Hands with Baxcalibur, they can push up a 1-prizer on the first turn. And if you push up a 1-prizer on your first turn, when you go second, they can get the KO with the Iron Hands. Or if you KO turn 1 with Roaring Moon, they just respond with Chi and Pow for the rest of the game after they push up a 1-prizer, and they just always win the prize trade against you. So we'll see. Maybe the consistency and aggression from this deck could overcome something.
When they push the 1-prizer, that's when you attack with your Brute Bonnet, buddy.
The unexpected Brute Bonnet. But definitely some potential here for sure. And there's some ancient cards that definitely make this card a little bit better on top of everything else. And we'll get to those.
Yeah, I think this card seems good. The way I want to try this is like as a tech attacker in a Turbo Darkrai V-Star deck. Darkrai V-Star is one of those cards that's just kind of on the verge of being pretty good. I think it would be good if we were in a more 2-prizer based format, right? But the fact that Lost Box exists and is pretty good, right? It kind of, and Gardevoir as well, like makes that a little bit more difficult to accomplish. But if Iron Hands really does push things like that out of the format, like some people predict, I think something like Turbo Darkrai would be really strong. And then this would just be a good finisher in that deck. Turbo Darkrai would struggle to hit things like 330 against a Charizard EX. Not Roaring Moon, though. Roaring Moon just gets that thing out of here. And obviously, its second attack is still really good as well. 220 for 3 energy is really strong.
Yeah, which is like one of the powers of Turbo Dark has been that 220 from the Moltres V on turn 1, going second. You can do KOV Pokemon with that, stuff like that. So that's like been one of the draws of the Turbo Dark deck, or one of the powerful plays that the Turbo Dark deck has access to. Up next, we got the Jirachi. Is it the Lost Box killer, or is Lost Box already dead because of the Iron Hands? Is Jirachi is kind of like beating a dead horse with a stick or whatever? What is that? Is that what it's called? Is that the saying?
Beating a dead horse with a stick.
What is it? What is the?
It's just beating a dead horse, bro.
Specifically with a stick. Jirachi's ability
specifically with a stick.
Attacks from your opponent's basic Pokemon.
Preference.
Can't put damage counters on your benched Pokemon. So this specifically targets Sableye. And is this like Iron Hands? Obviously, is not going to be in every single deck. So theoretically, the Iron Hands decks seem like they're going to be favored against Lost Box decks. If Lost Box is still playable, though, despite Iron Hands existing in at least probably one good deck, is Jirachi going to be enough for other decks? And will it matter to even have the Jirachi? Is Lost Box just not going to be around?
Or is I could see this being good in quite a few decks, honestly. But it's, once again, just kind of dependent on how strong Iron Hands is, right?
Yeah. How good is Lost Box at this point?
I could see this being worth playing in Gardevoir. I could see this being worth playing in the like Miraidon or something like that. I could see this being worth playing in Lost Box for the mirror. And I could there's tons of
the mirror seems like it's the best.
Yeah, I think that is probably the best use for it right out of the gate. And then the other thing as well would be, does this... So, there's a ton of cool 1-prize decks out there that just don't exist because Sableye kind of gatekeeps, quote-unquote, right? And one of them that I always come back to is the Zorobox, right? Would Jirachi make Zorobox a deck that can actually compete in the meta? Because it's a 1-prize deck that can theoretically deal with whatever your opponent has. Like it's kind of a weakness box, like counter deck almost, right? With the reversal energies at this point. So Jirachi probably means that you can withstand Lost Box, at least get to 50-50, right? You just have to, whoever attacks first, kind of just get through the active, right?
Maybe. The big problem is like, not
know.
only do you need Jirachi on your bench, but you probably also need Manaphy, because otherwise you're just going to get Sniper Ninja. So that's like the biggest draw. So I think like the deck that would be best in is probably Charizard, because Charizard can play with a pretty low bench because of how powerful one Charizard is. So the deck that I think this helps the most to help compete against Lost Box would be a Charizard deck, but the Charizard deck already has like a fine Lost Box matchup. So I don't think Jirachi's... Like, the problem becomes you have to have a Jirachi and a, what's it called on your bench, and the Manaphy.
Here's the thing, though.
And then they just get cross-switchered.
Charizard maybe doesn't have a good Lost Box matchup because we haven't even talked about the best card for Lost Box that's in this set yet, and that's Technical Machine Devolution, right?
Oh, true, yeah.
And Jirachi would help you there because it prevents them from Sableye. Because like all Lost Box needs to do against something like Charizard now is just Sableye a few times, spread the damage, and then boom, devolve, clear the board, right?
Yeah.
And Jirachi would help to prevent that, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true. I didn't think about that at all, to be honest. This is like a pretty good strategy against Baxcalibur, actually. It's just like...
Dude, that card is good, but in Lost Box specifically, right?
Yeah.
But it is super
is
good. Yeah, exactly. It's like a super good one-of in Lost Box, but yeah, if Lost Box is bad, you can't really do much, right?
Yeah, you got to deal with the hands. So yeah, Jirachi is like an underwhelming counter card, and I'm not actually fully against counter cards. I only dislike counter cards when it's like pretty obvious that what they printed before the counter card was just too good, and that's usually recent. But this is only something that's happened recently. I don't think people understand this isn't something that has consistently happened in the history of Pokemon. Like we have Spiritomb, Drapion, and now Jirachi. But before that, the only card that stands out to me was Giratina promo, and that was like once in the last. Karen. Okay, so that's like 2 cards in the last. Yeah, is there another one? Like how many years? Like back in the day, like back 2010, 2013, 2014, 2015, there was no card. I mean, there's Tina promo.
Some of that I don't know because I don't remember when. Like I don't know the order that cards came out. Like,
well, I'm trying to think back because I played back then. But I don't remember.
Yeah. Did like Ambipom come out after Garchomp came out?
I don't remember. But that's such a close release that those were definitely planned to be together. It was not like, oh, Garchomp's too good to release Ambipom. It's like Garchomp might release first, but this Ambipom is coming out next set. It's not like, oh my gosh, we're 3 sets in with Garchomp and Garchomp's broken. We have to release an Ambipom, which it feels like Drapion. I don't know, maybe Drapion, because Drapion doesn't just affect Fusion Strike Pokemon. It's just only good against Fusion Strike Pokemon. It's not good against Rapid Strike or Single Strike. But maybe Drapion was always intended to come out and it just like happened to hard counter Mew. It kind of feels like it was maybe not an emergency counter, but we're releasing broken Mew. We know it's broken in 2 sets or 3 sets, or how many sets was it? 4 sets? You'll get a Drapion. So maybe it wasn't like a card they came up with out of nowhere to like help against Mew. They planned to always release it, but that means they were releasing it knowing how broken Mew was, which is also not like a good thing.
I don't think they knew how broken Mew was because I feel like
Mew's still good today. Like Palkia's gone, Arceus is meh.
I know. Listen.
Lugia's around too though. Lugia is like keeping up.
At Worlds, they took a bunch of creators and gave them like Tour of Creatures Inc., where they make the cards, right? And there was a Q&A, and I don't remember. I've watched like several people's videos. I've seen several people's like Twitter posts about the experience and stuff, right? There was like a Q&A with the people who designed the cards. I think it might have been Ross that tweeted this or something like that. And one of the things was that one of the game designers said that they were surprised at how good Mew EX was or something like that.
It was pretty disgusting.
It's like, it was something like sometimes the player, one of the things that they enjoy is, which I think this is fair, right? You can only do so much with a team of, I don't know how many people they have, but say it's like 2 dozen people, right? That are like making, play testing and designing all the cards, right? You can only do so much. You can't explore every single possibility. When you get the cards out into the hands of thousands and thousands and thousands of players, people are going to be trying to find different ways to make them work. And maybe they just, I feel like that they were saying that was one of their favorite things about making the game was like they get to see what they think is going to be good, and then the players, come
up with other good stuff,
which I think is cool, right? But it just doesn't. It's not really nice whenever something like that ends up being as strong as Mew VMAX is like, that was a little under the radar there.
Yeah, the game designers are looking at the game currently. They're like, damn, we should have tried 4 Battle VIP Pass in our decks. We were only playing 1.
I can only play one. Like I only
Yeah.
get really value from one. So.
Yeah, like you only need it once, and they become useless after that. So I'll just play. We're just playing one in our deck because we didn't think about playing 4 Battle VIP pass. Oh man. Yeah. So I mean, that is something that's gonna happen sometimes. Sometimes things are just gonna be better than they thought. And in games like Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic, they do limit, they do ban. Maybe we will eventually start to see more of that in Pokemon. Limiting would be interesting in Pokemon. Like you could do limits. Like Battle VIP Pass could be limited to 2, right? And then all of a sudden, it's probably a bad
is
card.
it even played? Is it even played?
Irididex would play it, right? So, but that's fine. It would be a bad thing.
Honestly, Mew would probably still play it.
Oh yeah, but would it be a bad thing if they just like ban Battle VIP Pass tomorrow? I don't think so. I'd be fine with that. So maybe it'd be good for them to start experimenting with the idea of doing limits and bans, to be honest, more frequently. So I wouldn't hate to see it happen. Let's move along though. We only got a couple more cards to do. Get into the trainer cards. We can skip the Aegislash. He's not very good. Skeledirge. Skeledirge is kind of cool though. It's a metal Pokemon.
Yeah.
Terra, stage 2.
Yep. It's got the Incendiary Song ability. Once during your turn, you may discard a fire energy from your hand in order to use this ability. During this turn, your opponent's during this turn, your Pokemon's attacks do 60 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. And then its attack, Luster Burn, 160, and then it's not affected by any. And then we kind of skipped over it earlier, but there is the Volcanion. Yeah. That's a fire type that's got Power Heater. I don't know if it's called Power Heater, but it's the same effect. It's 20 damage, and then you attach 2 fire energy from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon.
There could be something here for the
shades of Volcanion, right?
Yeah, definitely. Not as good because they're not basics, but still, I mean, 330 HP, increasing your damage for turn by 60, like that's not bad for sure. There could be something here. It also has a Shred attack. Shred, never a bad thing to have around, right?
Yeah, I can see this actually being pretty good, but the problem is that it's a stage 2, right?
Yeah.
So that probably is the most difficult thing here. Maybe this is the deck that can use like Technical Machine Evolution the best, right? Just get a bunch of them in play.
This actually might be the second most hyped EX from the set. I forgot about the Golden Go actually. Might be Roaring Moon. Might be the Golden Go though. 260 HP, stage 1. Ability: once in your turn, you may draw 1 card. If this Pokemon is in your active spot, draw 2 cards, and then make it rain for 1 metal. Discard any number of basic energy cards from your hands. This attack does 50 damage for each energy card discarded in this way. It's hard. Make it.
I think this card is really good.
I don't know. Roaring Moon seems like a better 2-prize beat stick Pokemon because they just KOs their active. But maybe there's a little bit more to the Golden Go.
So does this.
I mean, that's true, but it's a stage 1.
This reminds me. This is a worse Zoroark GX, right? You definitely can't compare it to Zoroark. A lot of people consider Zoroark one of the best, like definitely a top 5 card ever printed, right?
Yeah. I mean, just its
consistency
HP.
with its ability, but it's like it's just a it's decently high HP, right? It's
each HP in the meta, like this has like okay HP. Zoroark was like a tank almost. Yeah. Golden Ghost ain't no tank.
Yeah. I mean, Zoroark was kind of at the standard HP of what.
Yeah. Well, I think Golden Go's like a little bit behind. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think Golden Go's like coming up a little short.
Well, of stage 1 EXs, stage 1 EXs have been 260 HP.
Well, just kind of like
not that many. There's just not that many of them that are that played.
Just in comparison of the best cards in the meta, like Zoroark compared to the other best cards, felt like a pretty tanky Pokemon. It wasn't getting 1 hit KO unless they were fighting type. But Golden Go's going down to a lot right now.
Yeah, I mean, what, like the Chi and Pals and stuff like that, but it's like you're knocking them out for weakness, right? You're not going down to Iron Hands, but you're a little guy. Your Gimmighoul's are, so that's kind of a problem, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it just gives me slight shades. You know, we talked about shades of Volcanion EX with the Skeledirge. I'm getting shades of Zoroark. Obviously, its attack not as strong as Zoroark's, which was just pretty straightforward what it did. You need a little bit more for Golden Go. You got to get the energy cards into your hand. But with the Earthen Vessel that's in this set, with Superior Energy Retrieval that's in the format, with Fog Crystal, the list from Mahone that I think has been kind of circulating is probably going to be the starting place for a lot of people with this deck.
The Gimmighoul's are what's it called?
Psychic type. Yep, exactly. Yeah, and cool. It's so there's some synergy there, which is kind of nice. I think this card could be really good. We'll see though.
No shot. We move on. I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be like that solid, I don't know, tier 1, tier 2 deck, or tier 3 deck, tier 2, tier 3, or like solid tier 2, tier 3, but it has no potential for going any further. You want to take a look at the mouse hold? It's the only other one.
Mouse hold's not that good, really. Bombardier is kind of interesting because it's got a little bit of a unique attack. Fast Carrier, if you go first, you can use this attack on your first turn, search your deck for up to 3 basic Pokemon and put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. So that's a pretty good attack, right?
Yeah,
but the problem is just getting it into the active on your first turn.
The attack costs energy.
Exactly. Like you can't attach retreat. You need to be using this in a deck that plays a lot of switches or a lot of beach courts or something like that. And then you've got 200 HP Pokemon in play. So it's like you're almost forced to try to go for its second attack, which is decent, 130 damage. You may shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your deck. I think there could definitely be a day where Bombardier comes up and is good. I feel like I said the same thing about Talonflame V when that card was legal, and I still think like there is a world where that card could have been good, but it just that world never came to be, right? We're not living in that multiverse. That's somewhere else out there.
Yeah, I don't think the Bombardier is going to get there either. We'll see, though. Maybe it makes its appearance. Let's get into these trainer cards. The Ancient Booster Energy Capsule that we were talking about, that combos with the, what is it called? Brute Bonnet. There we go.
Yep.
The Ancient Pokemon's card attaching is plus 60 HP and remove all special conditions, and they can't be affected by special conditions. So like I was talking about, specifically with Sandy Shocks or whatever, it had 220 HP. Now you effectively have 280. You put this on the Brute Bonnet, you're not going to be attacking with it to abuse its HP, but like that's how you get to access to the ability. So I mean, it's a pretty powerful tool card, right? Plus 6 HP is not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's definitely not good. Nowhere near as strong as the future tool, which we'll get to here shortly. So that's a little disappointing, I guess. But the future tool might be, I don't know. It can only be as good as the future or ancient Pokemon that can be attached to, right? So that is something to, of course, consider. And there's nothing that makes the future tool insane right now. But like the fact that they paired all that stuff onto that one tool card, we'll talk about it when we get there. But yeah, it's crazy. Catcher, this is a big one coming back in the format. You can only play this card if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. So we talked about this a couple weeks ago when it got revealed. And Azul, you were pretty excited for this one.
Yeah, I just like the gameplay around Counter Catcher is always good. It adds more depth. And Counter Catcher in the past never felt like broken. It never felt like ridiculous that it was existed in the format or like super unfun or super unfair. So yeah, I'm just excited for Counter Catcher to come back and be hopefully a positive influence on the meta, on the format. So excited for
Fortress EX, here it comes. Come on now, blow up and then get something up here. Come on.
Cursed
this
Duster.
is another one that didn't get revealed until the set came out, by the way. Cursed Duster. You can go ahead and read it. You're about to get started. I mean to jump in front of you.
If this Pokemon, if the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from an attack by your opponent's Pokemon, discard a random card from your opponent's hand. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. I don't know about the Cursed Duster though. It doesn't seem too good.
Yeah, it doesn't seem great because it's something that happens on your opponent's turn, right? So like cards like this, cards that remove cards from your opponent's hand have potential to be game breaking, right? So like the potential to just lock your opponent out of the game exists, but the fact that it's going to happen when your opponent has had a turn to kind of draw through their deck and do some stuff doesn't seem very good. Maybe in some sort of hand control deck, but usually if you're going to hand control them to the point where if they knock out your active, they're losing a card, like you're feeling pretty good about that position regardless.
Yeah. Defiance Vest, another comeback card or potential comeback card. If you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, the Pokemon this card is attached to takes 40 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. This one seems pretty good, to be honest. That's pretty powerful. I don't know what we're playing it with, but I'm a big fan.
It's got to be some sort of wall deck, something with a lot of HP that you're just tanking, healing, and it's definitely more of a stall compared to a control strategy. So yeah, I think that this card is probably going to be good at some point, but once again, I'm not seeing something to pair it with at the moment. I'm sure Sanders over there cooking though.
Yeah, Heatran VMAX. Here it comes.
Always comes back to Heatran VMAX.
Probably the best item card from this set is the Earthen Vessel. You must discard a card from your hand in order to use this card. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So we've had Professor's Letter in the past, and this is like potentially just like a better Professor's Letter, depending on how you
I think this might just be the best card in the set, to be honest.
Yeah, true. If Iron Hands truly isn't broken,
yeah.
I can see it.
So yeah, just good consistency on an item. Get a couple energy cards in your hand of differing types as well. So like, this is a card that people are playing in Xian Pao with the Iron Hands EX to go get the lightning energy. It's probably just going to be good. Honestly,
Yeah.
this is going to be a card that's played. This is kind of an interesting discussion. Whenever this card got revealed, I think I might have told the story on the podcast, but when this card got revealed, I was actually backstage with a couple of the casters at one of the regional championships, and I was reading it to Kyle Sablehouse, and he was like, they made Professor's Letter better. That was like his first reaction.
Yeah.
And mine was like, well, they made Professor's Letter, but with a cost.
Yeah.
And it's like,
but it's not always a, it's not always a
obviously
negative.
it's like, that's always the comparison. It's obviously the comparison to make, but is it like a strictly better or strictly worse, or is it just different compared to Professor's Letter?
Yeah, I would say in general, especially right now with decks playing for Battle VIP Pass, being able to discard cards isn't like too big of a issue. You have like extra resources to move. It also works really well with like B Barrel and stuff to thin out hands potentially if you combo with B Barrel. So generally is a plus to be able to have the option to discard cards.
Agreed. Yeah. And then we've got the broken booster energy capsule, the future one. The future Pokemon this card is attached to has no retreat cost, and the attacks it uses do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So they basically took two of the best tool cards of all time, Floatstone and Muscle Band, and put them on one card.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's limited to future Pokemon, because otherwise it'd be like 4 of them, probably like every single deck. So
yeah,
it's limited to future Pokemon. It doesn't even seem like Iron Hands needs this for the damage boost as well. Getting from 120 to 140 doesn't even seem to be like that big of a deal. I guess maybe KO Lugia V-Star would be the only thing, but yeah, I mean, it's a really good card, and I'm sure like future decks will abuse it. Like it'll be played in the Iron Valiant deck for sure, right? Iron Valiant deck will play this definitely, stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's how your Iron Valiant can KO Iron Hands.
Yeah. Iron on Iron action. All right, we're gonna skip a couple of these. Don't need to read Larry. Luxurious Cape is interesting.
Poor Larry, man.
Yeah.
I do think the Mela is kind of interesting. You can only play this card if one of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Attach one basic fire energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. If you do, then draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. So supporter cards that can accelerate energy have been okay in the past, yeah. And then this one, the fact that it accelerates energy and draws cards, like if a card only does one of those things, like think something like Bead or Marnie's Pride, right? They just accelerate energy. They're not seeing you more cards. It's like probably just not going to be good enough. But the fact that this can do both, I don't know. I think there's potential here.
Yeah. The only of course, the restriction is that you have to be knocked out. We do have Raihan still. And I think stuff like Melanie has always been better because like, you can do it unrestricted, right? Your opponent doesn't have to have taken a knockout for you to be able to get access to it. So I would definitely say that with already having Raihan in the format, Raihan is still probably trumps this in general, but maybe there is some fire type deck where you do value drawing those extra cards over just
and I'm thinking more card. Future than anything, right? Because we're getting to the point now where Raihan is a few years old. It's going to rotate out, I think, with the next rotation, right? I think we lose Raihan. Because it's from Evolving Skies, I think, originally. So I am thinking maybe a little bit ahead of the game with how I'm reading some of these cards, which I think is fair, right? Because they're mostly being designed around stuff that's
we're getting closer to rotation.
Currently coming out, right? Yeah.
Up next, we got Professor Sada's Vitality, which is definitely the best supporter card in the set.
Debatable.
Choose 2 of your ancient. Oh, I guess that is true. I think it'll be the more. I was gonna say more play, but now I'm not sure. Choose 2 of your ancient Pokemon and attach 1 basic energy from your discard pile to each of them, then draw 3 cards. So this is what's gonna be powering the Roaring Moon for sure. So how you're setting it up consistently and attacking with it and so on and so forth. So you combo Sada's Vitality, you get the Vessel, you have Radiant Greninja, like that's a whole combo right there.
Yep, remember what I was saying with Mela about attaching energy and drawing cards? Well, that's what Sada's doing.
That's also what Xatu does.
Okay, listen here, buddy. You're talking about setting up a stage 1. I'm talking about turn 1 Roaring Moon. This card is obviously really strong. I think the Roaring Moon deck is kind of the obvious place to play it. It's like just the Turbo Roaring Moon, something similar to what Mahone posted. I don't know if you would play this in the Darkrai deck I'm talking about necessarily, because it's like not a dedicated ancient deck. But maybe this can help you get there with something like the Sandy Shocks as well that we were talking about earlier, or with and this is absolutely if 4 ancient Pokemon come out at some point in the future, ancient in the future, right? If more ancient Pokemon come out at some point down the line, this is like the first card you're going to think about with those cards for sure.
That's what'll get him going, keep him going.
And then I want to say, let's move on to the real best supporter card in the sets. And what will be the most played supporter card, I think, overall, is Professor Turo's Scenario. Put one of your Pokemon into your hand, discard all cards attached to that Pokemon. So we've had effects like this printed throughout the history of the game. I think maybe is the first one Mr. Briny's Compassion, like way back in like 2003, I think, something like that.
It's just that in AZ. We've had Seeker as well, which was you and your opponent.
No, we've had Acerola.
Oh, Acerola is a little bit different though. It's like conditional.
It is conditional, but it's like this type of effect.
Yeah.
To just pick something up. I guess that might be
but that's colorless Pokemon specific. Damaged colorless Pokemon.
So think about all of those cards. Think about all those cards that we just mentioned. They've all been really good in their respective formats.
Yeah, definitely. They've all had their moments for sure. And now, basically AZ is back, which I think you would definitely argue is the most powerful because it's the least restricted, right?
No, do you know what Mr. Brownies does?
Does it pick up everything?
Yeah, just pick it all up.
Brownies is the most powerful.
It couldn't be used on EXs though.
Oh, okay.
At the time, which, so if it was reprinted, it would be the same thing. I would imagine you couldn't use it on EXs, which would make it like probably nowhere near as good. The way I'm thinking about this, my tech in my Goldingo deck, I keep calling it Goldingo because I think it sounds funnier, but Goldingo deck, you take a hit and then boom, pick it. You draw 2 cards, pick it back up. It's just like Zoroark Acerola all over again, right?
Oh, that's why you're excited. Where's the Guzma? Got Cross Switcher. All right.
Cross Switcher, buddy. Come on now.
All right, and I think that is. Oh, we got the technical machines to take a look at here. I think that's the only other thing we have to take a look at here. Yeah, technical machines. We've got. Actually, I haven't even read this one, but there's 4. Wait,
there's 4.
All right, Blindside is the first one.
They're all decent.
Oh, now I remember these. Well, I don't know. Blindside is interesting. For triple colorless energy, 100 damage one of your opponent's Pokemon with damage counters on it. So a cleanup tool. If you put on Cram, you attack for free.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more important things to mention here, and probably the place where a lot of these would ever see use is the fact that with Cramorant, the way its ability reads, Lost Provisions, if you have 4 cards in your Lost Zone, the attacks that Cramorant uses can be used for free. So you can use all of these attacks for free if you have 4 cards in your Lost Zone. The best one, yeah. I don't know. I guess I was going to say the one that can make the most use of it probably is the Blindside one. Obviously, Devolution works as well, but like getting 1 energy on anything with the Lost Box deck is not that hard.
Yeah.
But getting 3 energy on something is a lot more costly. And getting 3 energy on something in like any deck is a lot more costly. But the fact that Cramorant can do it for free, I think like if there's a place for Blindside to be used, it's in some sort of Lost Box deck alongside Cramorant.
Turn 1 Blindside? Because past that point, you could just use
Halucha.
One Blindside Halucha, is that what you mean?
Yeah, you have to use Halucha because it has to be something with damage on it.
Oh, okay. This card actually. Okay, I just realized that. So this is just you have Sableye at that point though. Like you
exactly.
You have yeah. Okay. Blindside sucks.
So, but like what I'm saying is like the bet like
yeah.
Like this card I don't think is that good. Like okay, so I did say like all these cards are good, but like this card is like
Blindside sucks. There's like a possibility. I think it's better actually. So it's definitely not good in Lost Box. You have a Cram and all that, or you have Sableye and all that stuff. But in like a deck where you like hit things and then like it's hard to clean them up later, and maybe it plays Arvid. That's where you could see some value.
Dude, how long have we been going?
A long time. We're closing it out here though. We got a couple.
Oh my gosh.
More cards to look at. The De-Evolution Technical Machine probably going to be the best of them. De-evolve all of your opponent's evolved Pokemon by putting the highest stage into their hand for 1 colorless energy. Hit some things up. Don't even hit them up. If they just rare candy too many things too fast, you just hit them with the De-Evolution, and then they're all going back to their hand. That's pretty good.
I think this is definitely the best of the technical machines. I tweeted this earlier as well. I've been talking about some of the new cards this weekend. Evolution, definitely second best. I think that's pretty good as well, but Devolution, just with Lost Box. Like I think this is just like instant one of in Lost Box.
Then you lose the hands, and then you put the Lost Box down. And then...
Dude, come on. I did not realize my co-host was Jake Gearhart. All right, let's move on to Technical Machine Evolution.
Once again,
for colorless. Yeah, choose 2 of your benched Pokemon, search your deck for a card that evolves from each of those Pokemon, put those cards onto them to evolve them, then shuffle your deck. I think this card is really good, especially alongside Stage 1 EXs that you just want to get a couple of in play, get your low HP guys out of there pretty quickly. Arvin exists to get it. It works nice on something like the fact that you can put this on anything, right? You can put it on a Mew celebrations that you just use to look at the top 6, find an item card, boom. All of a sudden you have a good attack as well. It's pretty cool.
Well, it is a tool card.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying you get it with the Mew. I'm saying like you use the Mew. Yeah, you use the Mew to like do whatever, get a VIP.
And then you attach it to the Mew, and then
yes,
okay,
yes.
All right, now you're cooking. Okay, Turbo.
The problem is that it does cost an energy, and you got to get whatever into the actives. Yeah.
Turbo Energize. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energies and attach them to your bench. We're going anywhere you like for colorless energy. Once again, solid. These things all.
You're flying there, buddy.
I feel like these things would have to be involved in like Arvin based decks though, because like you don't want to play 4 Turbo Energize, but maybe if you play a deck with 4 Arvin, then turn 2 going second, Turbo Energize is like a good option to potentially utilize sometimes.
Once again, though, it costs an energy, so you're going to have to get that thing in the active. It's also got to be a deck. I mean, I guess if you're Arvining, you're getting Switch or something like that, maybe. So
well, you do it with the active. Whatever the active is, just put it on the active and attach.
That's true, too. Yeah, of course. I'm just trying to get value from that Mew, buddy.
Couple last cards here. Techno Radar. Search your deck for up to 2 future Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. But in order to use it, you have to discard a card from your hand. So pretty good at finding Iron Valiants. That's how we're getting all our Iron Valiants out. Actually, I forgot about this card. Turn 1, 4 Iron Valiants, like not that hard.
Not at all, yeah. If you really wanted to. I think it would be cool if this card was like Tag Call, where you could get any future card. But would it be too good? I don't know. Maybe something down the line would make it too good. But the fact that it's just getting Pokemon, it seems like fine. Seems okay. Yeah. I don't know.
We'll see. And then, as more future Pokemon come out, which we probably will get, it'll definitely become better. And Medical Energy, when you attach it from your hand to one of your Pokemon, heal 30 damage from it.
Dude,
and then
there's no shot.
Tulip, which is
after all the Xatu talk.
We have... True, this is a good Azatu. Tulip, support a card. Put up to 4 in any combination of Psychic Pokemon and Psychic Energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. Probably combos well with Xatu. But I don't know. Research and Super Art is also a thing. Might just be a little bit better.
And Superior Energy Retrieval.
Yeah, we have that as well. All right, Chip. That's it. Longest episode ever, I believe. We made it through our Paradox Rift breakdown. And with that,
I was worried about this when we said we were going to read every card or like do a full set review.
Send us out though, Chip. I think we're ready to go over to the bonus episode over on the Patreon. If you want to check that out, there'll of course be a link in the description on YouTube. Check it out, patreon.com/Uncommon Energy Podcast over on the Patreon if you catch the bonus episode. Yeah, send us out, Chip. Send us over to the bonus episode.
Yes, thanks a bunch as always for listening. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave us a like, rating, review, all those things. Help us out a ton and let us know you're enjoying the content we're putting out over here. If you want to support us that little bit extra, be sure to check out the Patreon for 30 minutes of bonus content at least every single week. If you want to stay up to date with us, the best place to do it is over on the website formerly known as Twitter. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie. You can follow Azul at Azul_GG. And you can also follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
Have a good one. Appreciate the support as always. And from here on out, you'll be able to catch us. We're going to be switching over the date to, I guess we could have talked about this at the beginning of the episode, but we plan to switch over the release date for episodes to Wednesdays moving forward. So catch us next week. What is tomorrow? Next week, tomorrow. Yeah, so catch us next Wednesday. Wednesdays moving forwards. Going to be recording on Tuesdays because it just makes a little bit more sense with our schedules because one of us is sometimes traveling back from tournaments on Monday. If not one of us, sometimes both of us. If not both of us, sometimes one of us. So catch us next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, and have a good one.